This is the Literary License Podcast with your hosts, Vicky Ray, John Wilson, and Keith Shorgo. Discussing book to screen and everything in between. Coming at you from the UK and USA.
They keep it real.
We have a weird homicide.
In a scene described by one investigator as reminiscent of a weird religious rite, 5 persons, including actress Sharon Tate, were found dead at the home of Miss Tate and her husband, screen director Roman Polanski. Miss Tate, who starred in Valley of the Dolls, was 8 months pregnant and was found in a bikini-type nightgown with a rope around her neck attached to the body of a man.
2 bodies inside, 2 bodies outside.
Among the other victims were Hollywood hairstylist Jay Sebring and coffee heiress Abigail Folger. Authorities would allow no one in an unofficial capacity inside the posh $200,000 home in the hills overlooking Los Angeles. When police arrived, they found the telephones and electricity lines cut. The bodies had been dead about 12 hours. They were discovered this morning by a maid who ran screaming to neighbors. One officer summed up the murders when he said, "In all my years, I have never seen anything like this before."
While the police admitted they had no suspects in the Bel Air massacre, there were 2 more murders 15 miles away in the Silver Lake section of Los Angeles. Market owner Leo LaBianca and his wife Rosemary were found by their children stabbed and mutilated. The word war was carved into LaBianca's chest, and "Death to Pigs" was smeared in the blood of one of the victims. The word pig had been scrawled in blood on the door of the Bel Air mansion, where actress Sharon Tate and 4 others were slain, but police said, despite the similarities, they do not believe the crimes are linked.
Pretty girl, pretty girl. Cease to exist. Just come and say you love me. Give up your world. Come on, you can't be. I'm your kind, oh, your kind, I can see. Walk on. I love you, pretty girl. My life is yours. Yeah, you can have my world. Never had a lesson I ever learned, but I know we all get our turn. I love you. Never learn not to love you. Submission is a gift. Go on, give it to your brother. Love and understanding is for one another. I'm your kind, I'm your brother. I never had a lesson I ever learned, but I know we all get our turn, and I love you. Never learn not to love you. Never learn not to love you. Never learn not to love you.
A wandering band of members of a so-called religious cult with a leader they call Jesus has had 3 of its followers arrested in the investigation of the murder of Sharon Tate and 6 others. Those arrested are 2 women and 1 man, and the Los Angeles police said they would ask murder indictments against several others. 5 women are being held as material witnesses.
This is where they lived, among the stables, barns, and phony buildings of an old rundown movie location 20 miles from Los Angeles. They called themselves The Family. They came and went, and the number varied from 20 to 30. Police said they were a pseudo-religious cult. People who worked on the ranch said they were heavy users of drugs.
We were constantly taking dope and stealing cars, and they just sit around all day and sleep, and that's about it. And we went around collecting garbage and had that for dinner and went to the store once in a while, and that was about it. They just slept and got loaded.
The family left the caves they'd been living in on the Spawn Movie Ranch in the early fall, after the Tate murders. Later, police raided the ranch and found stolen cars. The family set up another camp in the desert, near Death Valley. 5 members are now in jail on other charges in the desert town of Independence. The family's leader, Charles Manson, is jailed here. It is expected that he will be charged in the Tate murders. People who lived with Manson on the ranch and in the desert denied that they were a violent group.
Well, we're just playing. That's what the whole thing is, that all we was doing out there was playing, you know.
Well, what kind of guy was Charlie?
He's a good person, a very good person. He's got a lot of peace.
Was he out there all the time?
I don't even know. You know, he'd take off over mountains, just like a deer. And he just wandered around.
Was anybody stealing anything out there?
What's there to steal? We don't want to bother nobody. You know, all we want to do is get away from the city.
Police apparently got their break in the Tate case when this girl, Susan Atkins, a member of Manson's family, was arrested in another Los Angeles murder and talked to a cellmate about the Tate killings.
According to the police, and they have, in fact, shown me some evidence which indicates that they have a reason to believe that she may have been involved in both those other episodes, at least to some extent. I can say this much, though, she has at no time ever actually herself physically killed any person.
Are you saying she may have been present, though?
The police evidence as revealed to me would indicate that she was.
Hello, welcome to Literary License Podcast. Today we'll be discussing the 1974 crime book, Helter Skelter, written in 1974, and the 1976 TV miniseries based on this book. And before we get started, John's not with us because John has the flu, so we're hoping that John feels better. And one day soon, you'll hear John's voice very soon.
John doesn't love us anymore.
And we also have Vicki Ray with us, so say hello, Vicki.
Hey, everybody.
And, of course, myself, Keith Shalgo. So before we get started on the works of Charles Manson and everything that involved with his family, so, Vicki, what have you been up to this past week?
Well, as you can tell, John is the only one that caught something, but it did give me a chance to sit around, do absolutely nothing because I didn't feel good. I caught some kind of respiratory thing, but I could belt out 5 whole seasons of under 6 Feet Under on HBO. I didn't think I was going to like it, but I couldn't stop watching it because it was I loved it. I just couldn't stop watching it.
I love the final episode as well.
I finally saw the final episode. I hadn't ever finished the series, but the final episode I loved. It was great. It was really worth watching. If you guys got a really open mind and a sick sense of humor, watch 6 Feet Under. All 5 seasons, fantastic. It's on HBO or Amazon Prime.
Well, what I loved about the finale of 6 Feet Under is when you got Lauren Ambrose, or Claire, the name of the character is Claire.
I loved her character.
But when she gets in the car and she puts the tape player in and that Sia song comes out, and all of a sudden it's like, and then you see how everyone dies.
Yeah.
And that song is fantastic. I mean, that's Sia before she became the $1 million recording artist that she is today. I mean, no one even knew who she was back then. So. Yeah,
I didn't recollect her myself, but I watched that, and that's how I started. And I really shouldn't have started it because now I'm going to watch it. I'm like 5 episodes into season 1 of Game of Thrones. Somebody shoot me.
But Game of Thrones is one of those things that I watched the first season when everyone was talking about it. And then I watched season 2 and I just couldn't figure it out. I mean, I did who the fuck are these people? I was confused. So then what I did was okay, well, I'm not going to watch it. And when season 3 started, I thought, okay, I'm going to go back to the beginning and just watch it. And I'm not going to think about it. And after that, I was hooked. When I started, because I just let it wash over me. And after that, I was able to figure out who was who and what was what and just let it go.
I'm only into the 5th episode of season 1, so we'll see what happens, how far I get lost into it. And what else was I doing? Well, I did a lot of research for the Helter Skelter stuff, which is really fascinating and then I ended up watching true crime stuff because I saw all these other documentaries about what was his name? Alan, was it? Oh God, his last name was Fish. Something Fish. He was horrible. Yeah, oh my God. What a fucking sicko. I've never even heard of him, but I saw the documentary on Amazon Prime and I watched it and I was like, my jaw's on the ground. You think you've heard it all? He's probably about one of the most evil serial killers. I don't care. Oh my God, what a sick fuck he was. But I mean, true crime kind of is a fascinating subject anyway, though. But other than that, I have been sick and not doing a whole hell of a lot. What have you been doing?
I watched this show on Netflix called The Inmate, which is a Spanish series. Fantastic. It does help that the lead guy is very easy on the eyes, but it's basically
never sucks.
Well, what I found with it, what I liked about it a lot, it was Prison Break is for pussies, and Inmate is for like the man, because it's like, I mean, it is rough. You know, it's a bit like
pretty raw.
It's a bit like when it's Oz met Prison Break. That's what it's like.
Was it a Netflix?
It's on Netflix. It's a Mexican series, actually.
I wonder if it's on over here because I live in Texas, so surely the Hispanic population we have here.
Well, Isaac and I were really into it. We were watching 3 episodes a night, sort of thing. And there's
is it subtitled or is it?
It is subtitled. I don't know if. I mean, the thing is because Isaac speaks Spanish. Well, the thing is he has difficulty with Mexican.
Yeah, it's probably totally different ball game.
Yeah, but we, if it's in Spanish, then what I'll do is we'll watch it in Spanish because I can read the subtitles. I don't mind.
Oh. Well, I noticed last year when we were in Spain that Spanish is a whole different ball game as opposed to Mexican.
Yeah,
it's almost like Mexican is almost like gang language compared to Spanglish or whatever like that. Spanish is just a little more streamlined.
Well, to hear Isaac explain it, he said that Mexican Spanish, what he was saying is that they use a lot of slangs and shortenings and the structure is different.
Well, they have a different cultural diversity that backed it up to begin with when they came over here. So yeah.
So we watched that. That was really good. I also
so it's pretty hardcore.
Yeah, very good though. It's very it kind of reminded me like 24. It's like
not for the faint of heart, basically.
Yeah. So that was we really like that. I mean, I watched the new movie on there called Isn't It Romantic with Rebel Wilson, which some people like it, some people don't, but I really did like it. I mean, to me, it's about this girl and she lives life normally. She hates romantic comedies. And she hits her head and she wakes up in a romantic comedy.
My daughter told me about that. She said she loved it. She thought it was really funny. And I asked her the other day ago, she liked it. I totally forgot about it, but she said it was really funny.
Yeah, I really liked it. I'm not a Rebel Wilson fan, but I did like the film. So, and I've been shouting high hollers there. And I've been watching this Canadian series that's on Netflix called Working Moms, which is very good. It's about these 3 women who are going back to work and they've had their baby. So it always opens up with them in this mother-child group. And they're always saying stuff that's very inappropriate. And then they just go back to work and they're doing stuff that's very inappropriate. But it's very funny. I really liked it.
Sounds realistic, actually.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the pilot episodes shows up and the women got their tops off and they're going, oh, look at my boobs, they're sagging, stuff like this. And then the 3
that's
women
realistic for sure.
And then the camera pulls back and they're in the middle of this mother's group and then the rest of the mother's groups are going, you can put your shirts on now.
Right.
Because everyone else is covered up. So, it's really funny. I think, there's a lot of good stuff coming out of Canada at the moment. So, and outside of that, now I've been doing a lot of stuff on, there's a show that's on Amazon called Killer Cults. So I've been watching this thing about killer cults and
that's on my watch list. Have not gotten to it yet.
A lot of fucked up cults there. I mean, there's 3 episodes so far. I think it's on weekly.
They got those Hale Bop people on there yet?
Well, we all know about Waco and we all know about Jonestown. But these are other cults, and you're kind of like, there's a lot of them.
Yes.
And they're all out there murdering people. And that's about it, basically. Just watching day to day. RuPaul's Drag Race is on, so Isaac's happy.
Oh, is a new season up?
Yeah, but just started this
week. Love RuPaul's Drag Race. I can't stop watching it. It's a train wreck. I just can't stop watching what's on. I love it.
And Real Housewives of Beverly Hills has started, so we're, Isaac likes that, so we're watching that now.
Real Housewives of Dallas is supposed to be starting pretty soon again, too.
Well, I think this Beverly Hills one, I think it's the downfall of Lisa Vanderpump. So, yeah.
Right.
Isaac's very stoked. It's like I come home and he's watching YouTube videos of what's happening on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. So.
Oh, my God, he's got it bad.
Yeah, he always has it bad every year for that. The Real Housewives is always Orange County, New York City, and Beverly Hills. It's like...
Yeah, well, I can see that.
Them. And we watch X on the Beach. So, yes... we watch a lot of shitty programs in our household.
We do too here. It's just like, and it's a big secret usually until we get on the podcast because I don't tell people half the crap I watch because no one would believe that I watched it. My daughter's got me watching The fucking Bachelor. You would have never thought in a million years I would watch it, but now I got to see what happens to Colton and the Virgin. So.
Well, it's like X on the Beach, the USA version. I mean, it's like I'm watching that, and the thing is, these people are all beautiful until they open their mouths, and they're fucking ugly inside. These are the ugliest people inside that you ever met. They're like beauty on the outside, ugly on the inside, and they're like all pining over these X's, and it's like they're just horrible people, but you just can't stop watching it.
X on the Beach. I haven't seen that one. Oh God, now I'm going to have to look it up.
The US version is basically old. Real reality stars, from like Big Brother and The Bachelor, and they go on this show, and it's like, and then they're all like, oh, let's have a party, and they're like in a really nice house, and all living together, and they're all eyeing each other up, who's gonna have sex with who, and everything.
That's like Bachelor in Paradise. It's all the losers from The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. They throw them on this island. They're all drunk and horny for like, I don't know how many weeks of hell you got to watch this.
And then 24 hours later, in come the exes, breaking up the relationships, and should they get together? And, as you know, with exes, it's like exes are exes for reasons. It's like, why would you ever want to?
Exactly.
Because I remember like when I was after I got through with my divorce, and we were together 15 years. And, my ex calls me and goes, oh, I've been thinking about you, and we really should get back together. And I go, why? And I said to him, I go, why should we get back together? I go, you're the same asshole that broke up with me. I go, and I'm the same asshole that you broke up with. We're still the two same assholes. Neither one of us is going to change. So what the hell do you think is going to work this time around? It's not going to happen. But besides that, yeah. My life is so full of such glamorous television shows.
Jesus.
Yeah. But anyway, so I guess what we'll do is we'll get into Helter Skelter. What I'm going to do the synopsis for Helter Skelter, and basically it's going to be very, very simple. And this synopsis will go for the book and the TV miniseries. Okay. Helter Skelter is basically the crimes of Charles Manson and his family that happened in 1969 with the murder. Well, when we believe is the beginning of the murders of Sharon Tate and Lo Bianca. The next day was what were their names? It
was August 9th.
La Bianca.
August, yeah.
And the La Bianca's the day after that. And the book is basically about the investigation on these murders. So
from a very narcissistic Bugliosi, I mean.
Yeah, I do think we'll make some comments about that. So, Vicky, what are your thoughts about the book Helter Skelter?
Well, it was long. It was big. It was involved. But, I mean, you got to actually like stuff like that, like true crime and things like that. And it was really kind of a fascinating book because, well, actually, this is pretty much one of the first media circuses that really happened when it came to a crime of this caliber. And, like the media was giving out all the information. I mean, there was no, everything was corrupted. It was just a big media circus. Buckfest is all it was. But the book just, Bugliosi just put everything in order as he saw by his point of view, as the events that led up to it and how it took him 2 years to get these people convicted and what it took to make it stick. And I mean, I would not have wanted to been the prosecutor for this in a million years.
Well, I found the book. I enjoyed the book. I enjoyed the first 2/3 of the book.
Yes.
And I thought, oh, God, this is really good. And then I got to the last third of the book. And for fuck's sake, it just goes on and on. And
it was a lot of rambling.
Yeah. And I do have problems with the book. I have problems with the whole Helter Skelter theory about the race war that Charles Manson was going to raise. I have problems with that. because he pushing. I mean, I know the reason why he's pushing this agenda, because there is really no evidence that really connects Charles Manson to any of the crimes, except that they were all part. And I don't think they were a cult.
Well, he was there at the La Biancas. That night he told them what to do, keep it clean.
Yeah.
He went in and tied them all up, told them they were going to be fine.
But what I'm saying is that but as far as the actual murdering goes, there's nothing that actually connects him to the murders. You know what I mean? The actual murders. Okay, like I can tie you up and I can leave.
Right.
Someone comes in and murders you afterwards.
Circumstantial stuff.
Yeah, there's nothing that I probably would get the prison, but I'm not going to get the life sentence or the death penalty that you'd hope I get, because there's no, I wasn't actually involved in the killing. I might be, circumstantial, as you said. And I think because he needed a way to convict him, I do think that this Helter Skelter line, I think, was fed through these people. And I do believe that Charles Manson did say about race war, stuff like that, when he was on drugs. Well, okay, I mean, let's be honest here.
Well, he got out of jail with the big, that was in 67. It was the Summer of Love. That was the original, and everything was going crazy, Asbury Height and all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think that, you and I, we've been around people and we partied in our youth, and we know the shit people say when they're fucked up. And all kinds of crap comes out of their head. I mean, basically, if someone's says to you, come to my house and we'll do coke and we'll talk, what they mean is, come to my house, we'll do coke, and I'll talk shit to you. That's
basically.
People just talk shit when they're high and everything like that. And when you got people on LSD for after about 200 trips, I think shit was high. And I'm not saying that Charles Manson didn't say what he said, but I don't think they were the motives for the killings.
Well, I think what pushed him over the edge was the fact that, he recorded a couple of his songs for Terry Melcher, who was Doris Day's son, and he never came through for him. So I think that kind of like tipped the scales a little bit, where he kind of went more crazy.
See, what I'll do is I'll tell you what my theory is. After reading this and after doing some research, my theory basically is that I don't think violence was the way it got started. I think basically what happened is that Tex Watson basically did a fucked up drug deal with Lola Papa,
right,
the black guy, and they thought he was a Black Panther. So Tex Watson brings Lola Papa to the house and asks Charlie to sort it out. Charlie shot Lola Papa. Lola Papa left. Then what happened was they thought that Lola Papa died, and they were afraid that the Black Panthers.
Well, they threatened him to come after him with the Black Panthers.
Yeah, because he was, Lola Papa was a drug dealer, and basically, and he thought, he's one of these people who was, virtuoso, talked about, talk shit. Basically he wasn't a member of the Black Panthers, but he told everybody he was.
That he knew him.
It's a bit, we've been in Watertown. We know what people are like when they talk. and then I think what happened then after that, I think Bobby Bosley, who was sleeping with Mary Brumner at the time, and was really good friends with Susan Atkins, took the two girls, and I don't think Charlie had anything to do with this. And what happened was that Bobby got was it Gary? It was Gary Hinman, isn't it?
Gary Hinman. Well, he screwed them over drug-wise, though.
Yeah, he screwed them over for some masculine. And basically what happened was Bobby Bosley and Mary Brumner and Susan Atkins, without Charlie's knowledge, because I don't think he had any knowledge of what happened. I think he knew afterwards. And they went and they were trying to get the money from Gary Hinman. It didn't go as planned. They killed Gary Hinman. Gary Bosley basically wrote "Political Piggy" and put the sign of the Black Panthers in blood on the walls, and then took Gary. The two girls went back to the ranch, told Charlie what Bobby did. Charlie said, "This has nothing to do with us." The girls are freaking out. Bobby takes Gary Hinman's car and drives to San Francisco. And by that time, they find his body and they put Bobby Bosley in jail. The two girls are freaking out. Oh my God, what can we do? What can we do? Oh my God, Bobby's going to go down. We're going to get implemented. We're going to do, what should we do? And the girls come up with this idea of let's do a killing so that way Bobby Bosley can get off. So that way Bob doesn't make Bobby Bosley.
Yeah, they put that. That's where they came up with the blood. See, a lot of people think that Pig and Gries and Helter Skelter came from whatever. They didn't have that. They weren't calling police pigs at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But that was all Black Panther speak.
Yeah.
So,
and I think after, I think Charlie goes, the girls go, oh, well, we need to do repeat killing. We got to get Bobby off. And then the guys that come after us. And that's when they came up with the idea. Well, we'll tell you what, let's murder someone. So Charlie, Tex, let's put Tex in charge. Tex, you owe me one because you screwed up here. You're the one that started the ball rolling. So Tex, Susan Watkins, and Patricia Krenwinkel, and Leslie Van Houten basically get in the car, and he goes, go to the house.
Linda Kasabian, who I don't buy the fact that she was this innocent poor girl, but
no, I don't think she's that innocent either.
Me neither.
And I think that's basically what they said. And I think Charlie goes, go to the house like the Terry Melcher house and kill someone. He didn't tell him to go to the Terry Melcher house. He said, go to a house like Terry Melcher in that area. They picked that house because Tex Watson knew the layout of it, killed everyone, made a mess out of it because then it was too much. You
think it got a little messy?
It got too messy. They come back and Charlie goes, you really fucked this up. You shouldn't have done that. You went too far, and because you went too far and you didn't, you didn't do what you should have done, I'm going to tell you how you need to do this because this is the only way we can get Bobby off. And then they go to the LaBiancas and they got the car full at this time. He ties it to the LaBiancas. Tex goes in. Krenwinkel goes in. Susan Atkins didn't go in this time.
No, Van Houten.
Van Houten went in. They did what they did. Meanwhile, got Krenwinkel and somebody else is in the car. It was one of the guys. And Charlie, they're driving around and they go, and then Krenwinkel goes, oh, I know this guy who was an Indian actor or something like this. And he lives in this apartment building. So they go there and they go to the wrong place and there's nobody there. And then they go home. And that's when the killings stop. And the thing is I think that personally, if I think that Charlie Manson was going to start a race war, I don't think they would have stopped with the murders. I'm sorry. It wouldn't have stopped there. They would have kept going. Do you know what I mean? And that's why I always think, I'm not saying that Charles Manson is innocent here. And I'm not saying that he shouldn't be in jail. I'm not saying that. I don't know if he should have been in prison. I think he should have been in a mental institution. But I think that's what it is. I don't think they were intending to start a race war. I think they were just trying to get Bobby off and make it look like someone else is doing these killings to get their friend off. And I think it's that.
Well, they did originally, but I really, when you think about it, though, they put too much friggin' effort into torturing these poor people just to cover up,
Well, I think. I don't think the girls were innocent. I don't think the girls were brainwashed. I just don't believe it. I think they're saying shit like that now because they don't want to take responsibility of what they did. And I'm pretty sure that if these girls were from a poor background, and let's say they came from the projects, or let's say that they weren't white. Let's say they weren't white middle class and they came from, really poor people. I'm sure that everything wouldn't have played out the way it did. And let's say that they didn't kill Sharon Tate and they didn't kill J.C. Brigg and they didn't kill the Folger Harris. I'm pretty sure if they just killed normal people, they probably wouldn't have gotten as far as they got, personally.
Well, the thing is, they had a whole list, though. Their hit list included Steve McQueen, Elizabeth Taylor, Frank Sinatra, Richard Burton, Tom Jones.
Well,
they were going to go for some people. So that they found something they liked to do. Clearly.
Well, the problem basically is with that list that list wasn't Charles Manson's list. That list was from Susan Atkins's mouth. And that's another problem I have with the whole story sort of thing, because I think Susan Atkins was whacked. And I know that after she was in jail for 7 years, she came out with a book called daughter of Satan,
daughter of Satan, daughter of God. Yeah.
Yeah. She became. They all found born again Christians afterwards. Because
she looked like shit when she died. Did you see her death pictures? She didn't even look like Susan Atkins anymore. She got big, and she was dying of cancer. So she got hers in the end. Talk about karma.
Yeah, and I do think what happened is that because they were drug fucked, I do think that when they got caught, I do think that they were enjoying the limelight. I mean, they were. They got the fame that they wanted. I don't think when it started out, I'm just in there saying that after when they did the murders, I don't think it was like to start a race war. And I don't think it's like, oh, we're going to do this and do that. I think a lot of this stuff developed after they got caught to perpetuate. There we go. Perpetuate them being legends. Because to be honest, if this wasn't perpetuated the way it has been, I mean, they wouldn't be who they are today.
No.
You know what I mean? And it's kept them alive. I mean, Charlie's dead now. Susan Atkins is dead. Tex Watson's married with family now.
Well, he's still in prison, though, but he's the minister in prison, and he gets conjugal visits and all that other fun stuff. His family used to live down the street from us in Princeton, Texas. Well, it was called Branch. It's outside of Princeton, and they were really nice people.
Well, Leslie Van Alten's out, isn't she? She's been
released. Yeah, she got out.
So Frank Winkle left, and well, then again, Van Houten basically didn't kill anyone either. She just stuck a fork in afterwards.
Well, they got that dipshit Sandra Good. Hopefully, they're not listening to this, but she's still, in the Charlie days, even after all. I mean, days, DAZE. Even after all these years, I've watched interviews with her that were almost recent, and she's still, all about that Chaz man power.
But I do think, when you're reading the book and you're going through, I mean, this is not against the LAPD police, but God, they really messed up.
They fucked things up bad. I mean, you had the media disclosing witnesses and evidence, and I mean, that was just foobar. The whole thing.
And, another thing is you're dealing with Hollywood types as well, and we all know that Hollywood types are not the most truthful. I mean, let's face it. I mean, we've just spent like 2 weeks about Jussie Smollett, which we won't really go there.
Oh my God!
And we know how they just jump on the bandwagon. I mean, like when he was attacked, you got all these actors going, "Oh my God, Justice,
poor baby!"
And don't forget to buy his album. And the thing is like, I mean, thank God, I mean, he's an idiot for whatever reasons, but we've seen how celebrity just jumps on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
And you kind of wonder, like, when they jump on the bandwagon, are they jumping on the bandwagon to get themselves their own press, to, for their own fame and stuff like this? And I think, and we got a lot of that. I mean, when they were going around after Sharon Tate was murdered, they all said that they're all supposed to go to her house that night for a party, that they could have been victims. I'm going to find out she didn't invite anybody to her house that night. Do you know what I mean? It's just kind of like just the way they were perpetuating the information. But then you had the police like putting their fingerprints on everything and touching everything through the blood, and
Yeah, they. I mean, even for the LAPD, I guess maybe had they not seen anything of that magnitude and that startling, possibly.
Well,
I'm sure that they've.
I don't know though, because I mean, look at the LA. I mean, look at LA crime up until this point. We had the Black Dahlia case. That was the LA. Where that girl.
That was a mess. They never found whoever killed her either.
No, and
poor thing. That was an awful crime too.
And then you had Lana Turner killing her husband.
Well, Lana Turner's daughter killed him. Well,
They say, but come to find out, I think it's finally come out that Lana Turner actually killed him and had her daughter take the rap. Do you know what I mean? And that's not even covering what Howard Hughes was up to at this point. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying that the LAPD police. I mean, they really messed up, and everything was really messed up during this whole thing, and. And I'm surprised, and to be honest, when you get to the court case, it wasn't a very good court case, really, because it was all circumstantial evidence. It's all hearsay. Even the Helter Skelter is all done by hearsay. It's a bit like, if I could, since Charles Manson compares himself to Christ, which, I don't know if I do think that's part of his sense of humor, which he probably shouldn't have had.
Well, he has a warped sense of humor, but I was watching God help me. I was watching a couple of interviews with him, and the man made perfect sense, and that's the scary part. He
does make perfect sense. And to be honest, some of the stuff that he's talking about has started a foundation that's helping save, that deals with environmental issues. One of the foundations that his family has started is one of the leading environmental foundations that help him save the planet. For whatever it's worth, I'm sure that they're
Well, the thing is, though, there was a lot more bodies buried around Spawn Ranch and Barker Ranch, and it leads to be. And they had a cemetery. Well, they still haven't really proven it, but there was a lot of babies that were born and didn't make it, and they had places where they were burying their babies. So there's a lot of shit going on.
Well, I imagine. as far as the baby, I don't think they were murdering babies. I think
they weren't murdering them.
But I imagine there was a lot of stillborns. But there was,
right.
If you got all these people fucked up on drugs 24/7. About carrying. I'm surprised the babies that survived carrying full term. It's kind of like, I do think that if all the murders that Charlie probably had saying that he might have actually committed is probably the one about Shorty.
Shorty, yeah.
And Shorty came out.
Shorty had it coming.
Well, I think Shorty was going to go to the police, and I think Shorty knew a bit too much information that could implicate Charlie Manson, and I think that's why he was killed. You know what I mean?
Well, those two news reporters are pretty smart the way they changed to figure out the timeline, to figure out where they dumped the clothes down the embankment. There were a couple smart people involved in the case.
And none of them were police officers.
Yeah. It was the news reporters and just regular lay people who figured out all this shit. And, Bugliosi really didn't have a pot to piss in when it came to evidence, because every time it was corrupted. It came out on the media, or it really was a farce for the LAPD. They must have really, really had a lot of egg on their face.
Well, even Kasabian, the funny thing about it, she comes and tells her story. And of course she's made it so like she's the innocent doe.
Right, crying. Oh my God.
The deer caught in the headlights, and, she's in shock both times. But there are a lot of problems with her story. Because they didn't let the other people talk. Tex Watson didn't talk to his jury. They didn't, Susan Atkins. She came and go depending on,
mood.
Yeah, well, she's just a weird person. She wasn't there.
Did you see her mugshot? Her original mugshot. She looks positively demonic. That does not. She looks like Momo. If you remember, seriously, take a picture of Susan Atkins, her mugshot, and then look at Momo. Which is actually not bullshit, because it does pop up on Roblox.
Yeah. But I think, you're kind of looking at this, and the thing is they weren't able to talk during their trial. So whatever.
No, they didn't. They kept them off stand.
They kept them off stand. And then you look at, when Charlie Manson, gives his soliloquy about everything, the jury wasn't even present. You know what I mean? You kind of like, this is the way the whole court case was. I can't say that. It should have been a mistrial, just the way it was handled.
Right.
They should have had a do-over, really, and I don't understand why they put them all in the room at the same time. You know what I mean? It just
that too.
And it's just like it was like one of the worst trial controversies ever. I'm not saying that they should have been set off free, but.
It was a circus. It was just a big circus.
Well, I'm sure that if they appealed and went to the Supreme Court and they looked at it now, and they went through it, they would have walked. And God forbid, us the taxpayers would have to probably pay them tons of money for the strife that they had to have in prison. But I think because it was such a big case, and because the media keeps Charles Manson demonified, and he's the god of the serial killer, even though he's not a serial killer, but that's what he is. And I think, the whole court case, I'm like, when I was reading that, I was like going, this is really messed up. This wasn't really fair. it was all perpetrated and hearsay and no circumstantial evidence and then the book contradicts itself because there's sometimes they don't have any usable fingerprints. They don't have any usable fingerprints. We don't have.
They had the one. They had the one. I think it was on the push button to the gate, the electric gate.
Yeah, but the police officer put his finger over it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And and then when they get the court case, and then then you're reading forward, and then when you get to the last third of the book where it becomes
monotonous.
Well, Leo Bugliosi is basically upping himself about how wonderful he is and how he saved.
He is a narcissistic person. I think this whole case, I think he just loved every minute of it. He wanted to be in the limelight just as much as the Manson family girls did. Oh, yeah. And I mean, he still comes out with all of his crap. Now they go to him for other mass murderers or trials. How does this happen? How did that happen? So he kind of got up there with all kinds of crap.
Well, I mean, the great thing is he became a multimillionaire because of it.
Oh, yeah.
He's the one that's made the most money in Charles Manson's name. And I was quite shocked when I was reading that because I actually was doing some research about how much money has the Charles Manson Foundation made because, he is a symbol. And couldn't find out his name's behind it all. He's the one who's made the most money out of everyone. So it's kind of like, it's kind of weird. I think it would have been, I just think that, they made Charles Manson the boogeyman, and I don't think he was the boogeyman, and I don't think it was a cult either. I think it was a commune that got out of hand. That's it. Because people were coming and going all the time, and you don't come and go in a cult. You stay in that cult.
Sounds like my college dorm back in '85. It's
yeah.
Difference.
So but then again, when you look at the history of Charles Manson, I mean, it's a pretty sad history. It's a pretty...
Yeah, his mother sold him for a pitcher of beer.
I know.
I think she was, her name was Kathleen Maddox. She offered a barroom waitress, her son. She told him, the waitress said that Charlie was cute. And she suggested to her server, give you a pitcher of beer and he's yours. And she brought back a pitcher of beer, just assuming it was humor. And she actually, took the baby. She
left the baby and took the pitcher of beer, and then the uncle had to go and get Charlie. It's like, what are you doing? It's like, well, I tried it. I mean, you can just see her now. It's like, she comes home, she's 16 years old, and her brother goes, oh, where's your baby? Oh, I had a pitcher of beer. He's at the bar. Like, oh.
Well, he really never did get a fair shake, did he? I mean, really.
He is a product. He is a product of the penal system, really. I mean,
yes, he is.
I think that when you do wrong, you have to take responsibility. But I don't believe that if you have a horrible childhood, that anything horrible that you do automatically gets you off. I think it makes us understand where he's coming from, and he did what he had to do to survive. I mean, you have someone who didn't have a very school education. He was in and out of boys' homes. When you get out, I think he felt safer in jail. That's what
they put him in Boys Town. I mean, that's like one of the most famous, boys in what do you call it, reformatories ever.
Well, and another thing is you got to remember that we're looking at prisons from the the 40s and 50s. We're not talking
totally different ball game.
We're not talking about today's prisons, and
where they have ice machines and flat screen TVs and all kinds of good shit.
I mean,
they do, people.
They raped him. I mean, he was repeatedly raped all the time because he was small. Charles Manson was only 5'1", and as adult.
Yeah.
Like this. And, and then, they send him to the, he learned about Scientology,
Yep.
God bless you, Tom Cruise. And, then, they send him on this course, a Dale Carnegie course, how to win over and influence people. So they'd send him on that course before they let him out. And then you had the whole thing and then he learns how to play guitar through one of Ma Barker's boys.
Yep.
And then, his whole life was institutionalized, and then they let him out, and, the hippie movement.
During the summer of love.
Precisely. But I do think that, I don't think the media and the establishment weren't too hot on this whole hippie generation as well. And I do think that they made Charles Manson the scapegoat to kill off the hippie generation. And I think it was And I think that's part of the plan about, you know.
There was a documentary called something Manson, the man who killed the 60s or something like that. Yeah. And also, I didn't know that the movie The Strangers was loosely based on this. I had no idea about that primary influence storyline.
Well, I think the Charles Manson story is interesting. The simple fact is that I think it haunts, you know, middle America, because the simple fact is that home is your place of sanctuary, and to have a group of strangers come into your house and brutally murder you lends itself.
It was pretty horrific what they did to those people.
It was horrific. I mean,
I can't imagine being pregnant and someone hanging me by the rope first, and then the first thing as a pregnant mother, you would definitely take a bullet for your child. And I would be pleading for the life of my child, too. So that was fucking cold. And you knew she did it because, you know, come on. If you've ever seen the actual pictures of the murder scene, not with the whited out things of the body. I mean, the actual bodies. Oh, yeah. You know, it's like, Jesus, you know.
Oh, it was a bloody massacre, which also brings me to mention that I don't think they were brainwashed. I'm sorry, but if someone brainwashes you and they go kill somebody, I think you'll go in and kill them, but you're not. They enjoyed what they did. I mean,
they looked like they were having too much fun. Yeah,
they enjoyed it. I mean, the multiple stab wounds. I mean, think about it. You know,
overkill. Complete. Abigail Folger, I think, had 21 stab wounds.
Well,
even more, I think.
Yeah, one of them had 40 or 50.
Frykowski, that was her lover, boyfriend, whatever. Yeah. They beat him so many times with that pistol and stabbed him. I don't know how many times. Then you got Steve Parent, poor kid, who just happens to be at the wrong place, the wrong time.
I know.
Pulling up the driveway and parking his Rambler. It's just like, And the caretaker, they don't talk about him too much, but I think he knew something was going on because he hid. And he said, I didn't hear nothing. He didn't know nothing was going on. He probably knew what was going on. I would have been under a cupboard or in a closet or something.
Well, Kasabian said that after they murdered them, they told her to go to the guest house and see if there's anyone there. So she went to his house and she jiggled the door handle and came back. That's what, you know, she said that. So, and she said there was nobody home. There's nobody there. And I mean, he was in there listening to music. So they must have heard the music.
Yeah. I mean, he totally talked about dodging a bullet liberally, you know.
Well, to be honest, out of all the victims out of this, I felt sorry for him the most. I mean, apparently the police.
Steve Parent.
Not Steve Parent. The
Frykowski.
No, the guy that they charged in the guest house, the guy who didn't get killed.
Oh, okay.
The police took him. Apparently, they tried to beat his confession out of him. They kept him.
I love the LAPD.
He was in jail for 3 days?
Yeah.
He didn't do anything, and every time they sit there and say he didn't, they hit him. You know, so how much that abuse would happen in 3 days? And of course, you know, I mean, he
get away with it back then.
Yeah, and I mean the things that they did. Well, it's LA Confidential in the '60s, isn't it? But
right.
You know, but you kind of like reading about him, and you're thinking, Jesus Christ! But you know. He has a court case in his own sort of thing, and you know they just brushed him aside, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think that the Manson girls, the ones who did the murder, and Tex Watson, that's why it's like, you know, you read about the murders and the stabbing and the licking of the blood and everything that's going on, and it's fucking brutal. It's probably one of the most brutalest murder sequences really today.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know there's been much to top that since this period. And, you know, then they do the same thing with LaBiancas. You know, if you think about stabbing something, you know, for any listeners out there, get a watermelon and just stab a watermelon 10 times.
It gets pretty tiring, probably.
It's fucking tiring. And that's because you got to remember, it's not just plunging downwards. You have to pull it out. You know what I mean? It's tiring to stab someone that many times. You know, first of all, it's someone that you know and you fucking hate them, or you enjoy what they do. And they enjoyed what they did. And that's why I find it really hard to believe that when you see them in interviews after the fact, and they said that they were victims and they were brainwashed. And no, I'm sure.
Yeah, there's a documentary. I watched it. It was called Charlie's Girl, or was it Manson's Girl?
Oh, the one with
all about Susan Atkins.
Yeah.
And she found God. I love how everybody finds God in the slammer. You know, everybody finds God in jail. And she was, you know, all about, you know, what's the word, ministering to other people and trying to make up for her, atone for her sins. And she had definitely a softer exterior about her, but she knew she was fucked and not getting out anyway. So at least she might as well go somehow, you know, try to rehabilitate her character. But I don't think she showed, when she said she didn't show any mercy for Sharon Tate, I believe she probably didn't. I don't think she showed mercy to Gary Hinman. You know,
I think if they had enough time,
if
Tex didn't drag her away and said they need to go, I think she would have cut out Sharon Tate's baby. That's what she wanted to do.
Right.
It came from her. She's the one that wanted to do it. It was Tex that, you know, I'm not saying that Tex is innocent here at all. Tex is probably one of the worst murderers of all of them. But, you know, he goes, no, we don't have time. We need to go. She goes, well, I really, you know, and you can see her going, and the way if you hear Susan Atkins' voice, she's got one of these really annoying high.
Well, she sounds innocent, kind of like, you know,
like Tex, I really want Sharon Tate.
I really want to take out the baby, Tex. Yeah.
You know, I do find it, you know, there's some stuff in the Helter that's not in the Helter Skelter book, and it's the links between Susan Atkins and Sharon Tate. Have you seen these links?
I don't believe I have. Links in regard to what?
Their paths crossed a couple of times. They didn't know each other. Don't get me wrong, but Susan Atkins used to be a dancer for Anton LaVey. He was one of his Satan dancers.
Yes, that's right.
And Anton LaVey, from our last podcast for our last book to screen, Rosemary's Baby, is the person who helped make Rosemary's Baby with Roman Polanski.
Right.
So it's kind of weird when they start putting these timelines together. It's like how all their paths cross at different times.
Well, Charlie was a sought-after guru. People thought he was cool. He had the girls, the drugs, and everything else, and everybody wanted to hang out with the jazz man. He used to live with one of the Wilson boys from the Beach Boys. Him and his girls would hang out there. I think was it Dennis Wilson? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason why they left there because Dennis Wilson said that he got sick of paying $50,000 for gonorrhea. Because they were just.
Well, he couldn't get him out of the house though. They were like staying there. He couldn't get him gone, and he was rather intimidated by him.
I mean, that's another thing is I don't know why they would have gone after. I mean, Terry Melcher didn't really promise them a recording contract, but Dennis Wilson stole Charles Manson's
one
song,
of his songs,
and wrote it and took responsibility for it. So I also think that if they were going to go for a revenge killing, they would have gone for Dennis Wilson. Because I mean, you know, you got someone that said, "Oh, I might record you. We're not quite sure," or you got the person to go, "I'm going to record you, and I'm going to give you all the credit in the world," and then renege on it and release an album with your song on it.
Yeah, they actually did that.
And I do think that, you know, I think that they're going to do a revenge thing like they tried to perpetrate in this crime. I think they probably would have gone for Dennis Wilson, personally. You know what I mean?
True. That is a good point.
So,
but Terry Melcher did kind of build him up a lot. You know?
Well, I think Terry Melcher, I think there's a couple of things with Terry Melcher that probably, you know, Terry Melcher at the same time before the Sharon Tate killings going and afterwards was basically dropping out of the limelight slightly for the simple fact that his mom was going bankrupt, which is Doris Day. She went bankrupt, and he was helping her get her finances back together, and he was developing a TV show to help her get her money back because her husband stole everything.
Right.
And I think that's when Terry Melcher started fading away from the record producing a little bit. Okay, he did the Byrds in '67 and stuff like this.
Right.
He pretty much always did the Byrds. But then when his mom went bankrupt just before the Sharon Tate murders, he was kind of busy doing all that sort of thing. And I think that's probably, you know, I think his interests were somewhere else. I'm not saying he would have given Charlie Manson a recording contract, but I think that's the reason. I think that's probably the true reason why he faded away from that, because he even stopped working with the Byrds for a long period till he got his mother's contract.
You didn't really hear too much about him after the fact. Yeah. After that is true.
And I don't think he promised Charles Manson a recording contract, because if that was the case and this was going to be a revenge killing, Terry Melcher would have been pretty easy to find. I mean, him and Candace Bergen were all over the press where they were living.
But it just happened to be that house that he used to occupy, though, which is kind of...
Well, it's because they knew the layout of it. But they knew that he didn't live there. They knew he didn't live there. They knew
Charles Manson actually met Sharon Tate once because he went there to, see Terry Melcher, and he wasn't there, and Sharon Tate and one of her butlers or whatever you called them opened the door, and she was speaking to him. So
he was also he was selling drugs to the guy that was in the guest house, not the guy who was living there at the time of the murders, but the guy who owned the house was in the guest house that night, and he was selling him drugs. That's the reason why. You know what I mean? So they knew the layout of the house, they knew the layout of the land, but they knew that Terry Melcher didn't live there.
Right.
And
I mean, and then, Sharon Tate, although she was beautiful and, she was probably a very sweet, kind-hearted individual, they made it seem like she was going to be an Oscar-nominated actress, and she really wasn't that much of an actress at that point. Maybe up and coming,
She was beautiful. I don't think we'll ever know. I think
what her potential could have been.
She might end up being in something. To be honest, I do think that, I don't think, if she was alive today, I don't think Roman Polanski and her would be married. Roman Polanski, when she got pregnant, Roman Polanski was upset with her because she was pregnant. And
he was gone. He wasn't even there. She was 2 weeks due. She was due out when she got murdered.
He didn't even want to touch her while she was pregnant.
He was too busy hanging out with 12 and 13-year-old children, probably.
In France and places like that. But it is stated. You can read it from many different sources, and he's very open about it. That when she was pregnant, he found her disgusting. Yeah,
that's why Jay Sebring was hanging around so much. The hairstylist that died with her that night, because he was still in love with her.
I think that basically that he probably was there. I think Sharon Tate was fully aware of how Roman Polanski felt about her while she was pregnant, and Jay Sebring was the shoulder to cry on. I don't know if, he has some weird things as well. He was into bondage and BDSM and whippings and all that sort of stuff. He'd take girls home and he'd do an S&Ms with them, sort of thing. He'd do M&Ms with them.
Did M&Ms with them. Yeah, well, let's face it, it's Hollywood. Have you ever been to West Hollywood? Just even back a few years back when we were in West Hollywood, it's still a pus hole. It just always has been.
Abigail Folger, she was only there because, Roman asked her to stay on. And if Roman didn't ask her to stay on, she wouldn't even been with Victor. She was going to break up with him because he was a drug dealer and he was causing a lot of problems, and she knew that he was using her, at that point, sort of thing.
Wojciech Krajkowski, he was a big drug runner to all the Hollywood people, and there's a whole lot of backlighting to the story, other than, they massacred a bunch of innocents, but a lot of them were pretty sick tickets in their own right and contributed a lot of delinquency to society as well. So, I don't think no one deserves to die that way. I'm just saying there's a lot of backlighting to the story that I don't think, unless you...
this is all in the book. This is not like conspiracy theory kind of shit. This is all in the book.
No.
This was what we just said. What about the simple fact that, the reason why Roman Polanski didn't go home is because he's sleeping with Michelle Phillips from the Mamas and the Papas, who was married with John Phillips, to a certain fact that when Roman Polanski went back home, he went and he snuck into John Phillips' house to see if there's any crime scene there, because he thought John Phillips was doing it to get back at him for sleeping with his wife. This is in the book. We're not making this up, folks. This is, this is Roman Polanski, the Roman Oscar-winning Polanski sort of thing. And then funny thing about it is, like 2 weeks later, John Phillips going, "Oh, I'm leaving town because I got to do such and such. Can you take my car to the shop for me?" So he didn't actually need to go sneaking around. So he took cars. But then Roman Polanski went and did some more snooping because he thought it was basically a revenge killing for some of the shit that he's been up to. That's what he thought.
Yeah, well, because Roman Polanski's never been a saintly man.
Yeah,
he still isn't a saintly man. But it did, sadly enough, I hate to say this, but in my opinion, I think he used his wife's death to promote his career to some extent.
Well, it's kind of, the funny thing about it is that we're not quite sure. Just before his wife's death, he was riding high from Rosemary's Baby, which Rosemary Baby made $30 million, which in those days, films going out in those days, a lot. Well, films in those days, they were lucky if they made $12 million.
Right.
That was a hit. This one made $30 million. So this is like the Titanic of the 1960s.
Right.
Now, he apparently was working on something in London. That's the reason why he couldn't come home. But we're not quite sure. I mean, I think the only thing, afterwards in 1974, he did Chinatown, which was like a huge Hollywood film that did very well for him financially and critically. But I can't really tell you what he was doing between Rosemary's Baby and Chinatown. So, I can't. So that means
I could tell you who he was doing, not what he was doing.
Yeah.
He's hanging out at the middle school. That's what he was doing.
Yeah. Well, he had a thing for them. And that's another thing is makes you, about Sharon Tate, which makes her even more of a tragic figure. This is a woman who's madly in love, hoping to have a baby. And I think she's having the baby to keep them together. And of course, that didn't work out for her, and it's quite sad. I mean, Sharon Tate's
was quite sad.
Quite a sad story. I mean, she seems like a lovely person. The thing is, you don't know much about her when she was alive, and I'm assuming that she was a nice person. But I know that when people die horribly or get murdered or for whatever reasons, that the reality of what they were before they were dead gets transposed to them being a saint afterwards.
Right.
But I'm assuming she's a nice person. Everyone says nice things about her, but they all say, problem is they say this stuff after you're dead. So it's like, no one says anything.
I know, they wait till you're dead before they actually have something good to say.
Yeah.
Sort of like being an artist or anything, or when you're dead. This is the best you've ever looked.
Yeah. Well, but this is another thing that you find quite weird, because Hollywood's broken up over the death of Sharon Tate. Oh my God, they're so sad. How a beautiful talent and everything like this.
Right.
But did you see what they did? Once she was murdered, like a week and a half later, they re-released Valley of the Dolls that flopped to make it a hit, and the Fearless Vampire Killers. And they start re-releasing these movies that were flopping with her in them, and they become hits because people were flocking because no one knew who the hell she was. So it's so it just shows you like Hollywood's kind of sick, really.
Well, that's why Valley of the Dolls did do well, though. It was really shitty.
I mean, Valley of the Dolls is probably one of the funniest comedies ever to come out, even though it's
it's supposed to be a comedy.
Precisely. It's supposed to be the ills of Hollywood. And I do love Valley of Dolls. It makes me laugh.
I like it too. I didn't like the second one. I thought the second one blew donkey balls.
I love Beyond the Valley of Dolls. That's my all-time one of my favorite movies. Yeah.
Oh my God, I liked the first one. I didn't like the second one so much.
Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, if you ever go back and rewatch it, because we did cover it for the podcast, which I don't think you weren't in on that episode. This is before
I wasn't there for that one.
The podcast. But if you rewatch it, the murder sequences when it was released were recreated the Sharon Tate murders.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Now I gotta watch it. It's on Amazon Prime.
Watch it. It's one of the soundtrack in it is fantastic. It's one of my favorites films of all times. I like it better than Valley of the Dolls.
I probably didn't watch it all that much because I wasn't a real huge Valley of the Dolls fan. But after I started watching it, because the acting, I mean, poor Sharon Tate, God love her, B movie stuff. This is all B movie stuff, and you have to watch it, folks. I can't explain the movie. You got to watch it. According to Keith, we have to watch the second one. So that's what I'll be doing probably by tomorrow night, is looking it up and watching it now.
Beyond the Valley of Dolls, for our listeners out there, is better than Valley of the Dolls. Beyond the Valley of Dolls is a psychiatric.
Is that with Patty Duke, right?
No, Beyond the Valley of Dolls doesn't have anybody in it. They're all Playboy.
They're all different.
Oh no, they're all Playgirl centerfolds that he cast. Russ Meyer made the sequel to Beyond the Valley of Dolls, and Russ Meyer is known for like Faster Pussycat Kill, and he's always and his films always have women with big boobs.
Exactly.
He only hires women with big boobs, and so he and the script for Beyond the Valley of the Dolls is written by Roger Ebert, the film critic.
No way, I didn't know that.
And so basically, it's how they sell the 60s. And so basically, it's about this girl band who come out to be with Aunt Susan and to get a record contract, and about all the sex and all the drugs that they're taking. And that's what. And then of course it opens up. You see the murder happening during the opening credits, and then it leads to how this murder happens. And there's plenty of surprises. It's camp. It's got some of the best lines, and it's like some of the lines are, I'm on a contact high, man, or don't bogart the joint, man. But when you hear like all these like drug sayings that we were used in our youth, it's from this movie.
Right.
They became like, it's like, I like to strap you on sometime. It's like, and it's fantastic. And the music is great. The music's done by Steve
You sold me. I'll watch it.
Oh, watch it. Make sure it's the widescreen version, though. I imagine it is. It's on Amazon, but it's one of my favorite movies. But there is a nod to it, to the Sharon Tate killings.
Okay, so that definitely is.
And this movie made more money than Valley of the Dolls.
Hollywood is a sick, cruel, twisted society. They really are.
So, but I mean, as far as the book of Helter Skelter goes, I think it's a really good book, and I think it shows what a crime. I do think if the book was written by somebody else, I do think it would have been a lot tighter. Tighter book.
It's kind of all over the place a little bit.
I think that I said before, I think the first 2/3 of the book are fantastic. I was so involved in reading it and stuff like this. The last third of the book, when we got Leo Bugliosi.
Yeah, Vincent Bugliosi.
Vincent Bugliosi.
Bugliosi. Not Bugliosi.
Because you got the word bug in his name.
I know. Well, you can't call it Bugliosi. I think that's what Manson used to call. I thought it was fun. Well, we'll get to the movie anyway. But his interactions with Manson. Correct. Just help me.
But I do think that my problem is with the book. The final third of the book is Vincent basically hyping up his own profile and talking about how brilliant he was and how da-da-da-da-da.
I know, he's a narcissist. That's what I thought.
And that's where I think that's where the book suffers. I think that if someone else written the book, I think that we wouldn't have that 2/3 of him talking about how brilliant he was.
Right. He didn't really actually say he was brilliant, but you could tell that's where the whole last third of the book was going.
Well, by the end of the book is like, enough about me. What do you think of me? That's what it came across. It's like I put it all together. It's because of me. Because of me. I did it.
I know. He's still around and he still toots his horn.
Yeah. Oh, I think he died recently.
Manson died. He was the first one getting interviewed by everybody.
Oh God, yeah. He loved his own press. And I do find it, there's a lot of inconsistencies with the book though, and with this court case. It's like, when
a good judge would have thrown it out.
Well, things like, when Nixon declares that Manson's guilty,
yeah,
it's like, where did Charles Manson get the newspaper from?
Well, he did, though. Nixon did say he was. I mean, how are you going to have a fair trial when the president of the United States says you're guilty?
And there's a lot of certain over issues in the book when they finally capture Manson and his family, and they're like talking about like people passing information between the girl and the girls are kept separate. Texas and Texas, the girls are kept separate. Charlie's kept separate from the girls. They're nowhere near each other, but there's still information going back and forth. How is this information going back and forth? No mention of it whatsoever. And there's and then the girls outside know what's going on inside. And his family is not allowed into court because they come up with this idea that works that because they can be called as witnesses, which they're never going to call them anyway, but because they be called as witnesses, that means they're not allowed to sit in on the hearing. So that's why the family stays outside for the whole 1.5 to 2 years it takes. I mean, it was almost as long as the O.J. Simpson trial.
I think it was 71 by the time they convicted him, right? 71?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean it was almost a 2-year trial. The only thing that was longer was O.J. Simpson's trial. Apparently,
Yeah,
that was the longest.
Don't even get me going on that one.
Yeah, well, we won't, yeah, that's a whole episode
That's
in
another
itself.
story.
That's a whole miniseries in itself. That one. But so and then his family are not allowed to visit Charlie, and they're not allowed to visit the girls. So and he sits there and says this over and over in the book. But then at the same time, he's talking about this information that's going from the outside to the inside, from the inside to the outside, that they all know what's going on. And you're like, well, who's passing this information? Like, he's like, sorry, Vincent, if you're that brilliant, you would have told us how this information is passing. But then you don't really know. I mean, so I do think that people were hoping to get rich off this case as well. I think the judge was hoping to make himself rich. I mean, Manson's attorney, what a pain.
I felt sorry for his attorney. How you couldn't have paid me enough to be his fucking attorney? Oh my God.
Well, and you got the Kirk, what was his name? Kirkland. And then there's like, it's like he just like opposed everything. So I mean, he added a year onto that hearing. It's just for him opposing everything.
Well, you see what he did with Charles Manson? He decides he gets so sick of that judge, he jumps up after him with a pencil, trying to stab him with a pencil. And
he said he for a 5'1" man, he jumped higher than any basketball player ever jumped. It's like, what? Yeah, okay, Vincent, there you go. And then and then you had the girl. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of inconsistencies with the whole court case. I think everything up until we get to the court case is like you're reading it is very interesting, and then you get the main court case is fine. I don't know why they did it. Then the hearing court cases in there, and that seems like that was boring.
Yeah,
they already found them guilty. Now they're gonna talk why they're guilty. It's like, well, didn't we just cover all this?
I know. I think that was the beginning of Spin back then.
Oh yeah. And then he had like the attorney who went missing, who went camping on his own.
Yeah.
And like the Manson girls must have killed him. Well, during a flood, he was caught in a flood, and it it must have been the Manson girls that killed him. They don't say that, but they imply that, didn't it? One of the Manson families killed him. It's like, why would they kill the person who's representing them? It's like, I mean, they were all crap, and they got the worst defense attorneys ever for these.
What was it? Bugliosi was sitting there. He said something about. He goes, Manson's like. He goes, yeah, he's looking at me. He's vibing at me. The judge is going, I don't see Mr. Manson vibrating. That's just like it was almost embarrassing. Really, a court case. I mean, it really should have been kicked out. Not that they were innocent. But I mean, I don't understand how they did not throw the case out. No, it should have been retried and retried properly. I mean, I do think they were guilty. I'm not sitting there saying that they're innocent. Oh no, they were guilty.
I think Charles Manson's part in everything. I think that's the areas of gray that we're dealing with. And
he was probably just the orchestrator,
Well, I don't even know if he orchestrated that much. I think he knew what was going on. I think every single person's guilty. I think that they all orchestrated together. I don't think he was this king guru that he brainwashed these kids and everything like that.
I don't think he brainwashed anybody. I just think that was just
it was a commune that was fucked up on drugs. That's what it was.
Communal mind fuck. That's what it was.
It wasn't a cult. It wasn't Jim Jones. It wasn't Waco, Texas. It wasn't deadly cults. They weren't a cult. I think a cult, that's a bit like sitting there and saying that Jussie Smollett was a hoax. It wasn't a hoax. It was a fucking lie. And Charles Manson they were a commune. That's pretty much all it was. And I think the establishment thought they caught their guy. They had something that was very, very, high viewed. Everyone was talking about it because it was Hollywood. It was worse. I'm sure that they did this in Boston or New York City, it wouldn't have got the press that it got. You know what I mean?
No.
Because it was Hollywood, and Hollywood people are so fucking special. We know that they're fucking idiots, but
yeah.
But because they're so bloody special and they're so rich.
They're Hollywood. They're America's royalty. Yeah. They like to talk down to us poor huddled masses because we can't make decisions without them.
Yeah, and then when these murders took place, they hated the hippie culture. The establishment hated it.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they
would have done anything to get rid of it.
And I think that they orchestrated things worse than what they were. I think basically it was a simple murder case that, that people were misguided and idiotic because they thought they could get themselves out of it by killing, you know what I mean? And a bunch of drugged out people who didn't know what the fuck they were doing. And if Charles Manson was this big, mastermind of, this great big criminal mastermind, they wouldn't have got caught. They wouldn't have got caught stealing cars. They would have, if they wanted to do a race war, they wouldn't have stopped at the La Biancas. They would have murdered more people.
Well, they said they were supposed to go up and down Cielo Drive.
But they didn't, though. They didn't do it. Why didn't they do it?
Because they fucked up the first one so badly.
Well, but they got away with it. I mean, the Bianca murders, they got away with it, really. I mean, if they were going to perpetrate some kind of race war, they didn't catch them till a year afterwards. After the murders were done, they caught them a year later. That's, what I mean? They had a whole year to keep killing people to perpetrate their race war.
Right.
You know what I mean? If they were, and let's sit there and say that the race war, there's some truth to it, and this is what they're going to do. Well, they weren't very bright. They weren't the brightest bulbs in the pack. I mean, they
were hiding out in the middle of Mojave Desert. I don't know if you've ever driven through the Mojave Desert, but I would not want to be out in the Mojave Desert in a freaking Barker Ranch or whatever the hell that was. It's hot. They said they were looking for the opening to whatever Mecca they were looking for.
Yeah, I mean, let's put this in realistic terms. They got pulled into jail because of the drug bust. I'm not drug bust, because of the cars. Yeah. And then where did they move to afterwards? They weren't waiting for the racist war out in the Mojave Desert. They go, oh my God, we're getting caught. We're going out in the middle of nowhere so that way they don't.
Let's go out in the middle of the Mojave Desert where it's fucking 120 degrees at 7:00 at night, and that's no lie.
Well, they went out there because of the simple fact they got caught. And the reason why they got off is because the LA police messed up on the search warrant.
Yep.
Find it in the proper place. Charlie knew this. I mean, Charlie's been arrested how many times in his life? And he's like, shit, we can't be at the Stone Ranch anymore because we've stolen all the cars. It's only a matter of time until they get another search warrant that's signed properly, and we're gonna get caught for this auto theft. And that's why they went to Mojave Desert. It had nothing to do with, looking for the race war, and they're going to be the race that's going to rise up. I mean, could you imagine if the race war happened? And
in all of his interviews, you never hear him mention it.
No.
In all of his interviews. And I watched several this week, I mean, Amazon has a lot of really good stuff on the Chaz Man.
YouTube as well.
Yeah, YouTube. Oh, my God. I mean, but I mean, any interview you watch, he doesn't ever talk about how he's talking about Blackie or Darkie or all this other crap in this race war, but it is Tex or Bobby Beausoleil or Leslie Van Houten or Susan Atkins and
about how they've all been brainwashed and
Yeah.
And and that's why they went to Mojave. That's why they went there, because Charlie figures it's only a matter of time until we get picked up for this car ring. That's what it was.
Yeah, that is a good theory. I never really thought of it that way, but that's really smart.
And
because seriously, if it was a race war, you're right. There would have been a whole lot more death and destruction. They were just trying to get their buddy out of prison. Sounds like,
And I do think that if they were going to start a race war, I mean, I'm just thinking if Charlie Manson was this criminal mastermind that they make him out to be. I mean, there's so many stupid mistakes. I mean, why didn't they kill Susan Atkins for opening her mouth?
Well, she tried to run away from him a couple of times and he kept her baby. He wouldn't let her have it. That's the only reason she went back to him.
No, that wasn't Susan Atkins.
It was Susan Atkins. She tried to get away from him. Yeah, she ran away, and I forget why, but she was getting to the point where she goes, wow, there's something not really mind-melding here with me. And the only reason she went back is because Charlie had her baby, and that he forced her into coming back. And he treated her like crap for a while, beat her up, and stuff like that. There was another person that did the same thing, tried to escape with her children.
Well, Kasabian tried to.
Kasabian got away.
But she left her baby behind.
She had to leave one of her children behind. Yeah.
But look at the teenage girl that was hanging out with them. Her parents gave Charlie their teenage daughter as a gift. Just like,
I know. It's just so bizarre. There's so much everybody just does not know unless you read the book or sink into a little research, because there's so much more behind the movie with Steve Railsback and the book that Bugliosi wrote. And I mean, it's one big clusterfuck of information. It really is.
Because the thing is, what we don't get anybody interviewing before the court case comes to trial or during the court case of any of the Manson family or Charlie talking for themselves. We don't get any of this. We got people who are coming forward to give testimony to get themselves out of their own law problems. And that way they're all getting immunity. Everyone that prosecuted got immunity for all the shitty things that they were doing. They weren't out there killing people. Well, a couple of them were killing people, but most of them were out getting immunity to get off their drug bust and their car stealing rings and all this other stuff. And they're giving testimony, giving them what they wanted. And
he had Sandra Good out front all the time with her 2 cents, just chirping away.
But you don't really get their story. Now, the thing is 7 years later, when all of a sudden it's like interview process can come up and people can start interviewing them. And then at this time, you got these Manson women who've been in prison for 7 years. And of course, they now change their stories. Their stories are totally different than what they started out with. Oh, I was brainwashed. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no responsibility. I am totally sorry. I found God.
It was all the drugs I took.
Yeah, 200 acid trips. Though during the time when they're taking the 200 acid trips, they said it wasn't the acid that made us do this. So, and I mean, her story has changed, but it's one of those things that Charles Manson's going to go down. He's down in history. He's in our history books now. He is the
forever
person. They have that.
Well, it's sort of like when you talk about somebody so much, they're going to find stardom. He's like Jesus Christ superstar, basically.
Well, he's an anti-hero, isn't he?
Yeah.
Do I think he should have been in prison for life? Not really. I think he should have been in a psychiatric hospital. It would have been nice for him to get psychiatric help. I think he was a fucked up individual that was born to a fucked up situation, that was treated very messed up with the whole
system,
the whole penal system, the social services system, everything took this kid and turned him into what he became, which wasn't good. I don't think this person had any love in his life whatsoever. He doesn't know what love is. I think he was, he was sexually abused. He was physically abused. He was mentally abused his whole life. They sent him out upon the world. He meets a bunch of hippies. They're all having sex with each other. They're all having a good time. And then they're all taking drugs. And then they all just got fucked up and they went too far. And they're just covering their asses. And
you're probably going to get a bunch of hate emails.
It's fine. I'm not, and I do think that the people who actually did the murdering are scumbags, and they did it and they loved what they did. I'm sorry, but they loved what they did. There's too much love going into every single, gunshot and every single knife wound. They did it with passion, and they did it for passion because they enjoyed what they did, because they were sick fucks. They were sick.
Yeah.
Was Charlie a sick fuck? Yeah, Charlie was a sick fuck. But at least we can understand Charles' background and stuff like this and put stuff in the context. These other people...
They were all messed up in the car ride on the way to the Tate Mansion.
No, apparently they weren't on drugs at all. It's come out now that they weren't on drugs at all. That they made that... They're saying that they were on drugs now because to make this for their parole hearing. But at the time when they were putting the thing together, they weren't on drugs.
Linda Kasabian testified that they were all kind of methed out.
They're saying that now. Now, when their public hearings started coming through, then they changed their story and said they were on drugs. So now this is a story that's come out. They were on drugs when they went and did this. But at the time, they said they weren't on drugs. It's only now that they got parole hearings coming up all the time. Now they don't take a responsibility because we were fucked up and we were brainwashed.
Right.
But at the time, they weren't on drugs, and everyone and the family members said they weren't on drugs when they left. They didn't take anything. Tex wasn't on anything because they were dry. They had no money to buy drugs. That's the problem, because they killed Gary Hinman. That was their drug contact, and Lola Popala wasn't going to sell them any drugs. They didn't have any drugs at that time. They might have had drug hangovers, but they weren't on drugs. They're saying it, but this is what I'm saying. What's interesting about the family? I mean, all the attention is put on to Charles Manson, but the interesting thing is the Manson girls, the ones and Tex. They are the real villain. They're the huge villains of the story. They are, and their stories keep changing all the time.
I think it cracks me up that he's a minister now, and he's married, and he got conjugal visits, and actually has a family, and he's got life in prison. I mean, they treated him like McKinney, Texas is right down the road from me, and that's where they were staying. They put Tex up during this whole ordeal, what was going on in L.A., and he was treated like royalty down here. Well, he was getting steak dinner, cigarettes. He was just doing his thing.
Well, what did Vincent say in Helter Skelter? It's like when Tex, they finally takes all this time because they were
extradite him.
They're not going to extradite him or anything like this, and they finally do. And the Tex shows up, and he's got in a suit, clean cut, looking like boy next door. Not like that drug fuck picture, like when he was all fucked up when they picked up the Spawn Ranch for that auto ring. It's like, But I mean, that's what I mean. That's what I find. I think that's why their story is always interesting, sort of thing. So
it does evolve into something different.
But as far as the book is concerned, it is a thick book. I mean,
it's a good read, though.
It is a very, very good read. I actually, it's one of these books I've never actually read, and it's the first time I read it. And when I downloaded it off Kindle, you have to download it in 8 parts.
Yeah, it'll freak you out if you download it off Kindle. Don't lose your shit, folks.
It downloads in 8 parts. So it's like, I was like, oh my God, this book is, I was like, and then, because the thing is, I bought the paperback, and the paperback writing is really small.
It's too small, yeah.
I can't do this. It's going to give me a headache. And I like to read in bed before I go to sleep. And I'm not, I don't want to keep my other half up while I've got the light on. So I got it on my Kindle, and I was like, okay, here we go. And I was like, downloaded 8. And I was like, I figured, well, I'm going to start at the beginning of the month, because I figured if I start at the beginning of the month, therefore I'll have enough time to read it. And the thing is, I started whipping through it really fast.
It's interesting. It's a page turner up until that point when I have to agree with you, where the narcissism kicks in.
Yeah. Like, but
like, look at me.
So I do think, as far as the book is concerned, I think it's one of the best crime books out there.
It is. It's excellent.
The first 2/3 are the best crime book out there, and the last third is the best narcissistic book that you're ever going to read. The last third.
Yeah, of a prosecuting DA. Yeah. Look at me. Look what I did.
So what we're going to do is we're going to cut to a commercial break, and then we're going to play the trailer for the 1976 miniseries for Helter Skelter, and we'll be right back after this messages.
Morning face. You get it when you don't sleep well. This is what happened to Linda.
Morning, guys.
Good morning. Ah, what is that thing?
It's me, Linda.
Oh my God, it talks! Run!
No, it's me, Linda from HR.
It looks hungry! Save the children! Save them!
What?
Stay back, I've got mace!
Ow, that went in my eyes.
Quit moving!
It's called beauty sleep for a reason. And there's never been a better time to get some.
Get 20% off IKEA Sultan mattresses. IKEA, love your home.
From the crimes that horrified the world.
Oh my God, Darren.
From the best-selling book that revealed every true and bloody detail. Now comes the motion picture that has already shocked 100 million Americans. Charles Manson, the father, his family, and their legacy of Helter Skelter. Now, Lorimar Productions brings to full life Helter Skelter, the #1 bestseller, the true story of the Charles Manson murders.
I just kept stabbing her till she stopped screaming.
I just wanted them to stop!
If you don't stop, I'll have you removed. I've got a little system.
Call the next witness.
Do you think I'm kidding?
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Sharon Tate, Jay Sebring, Abigail Folger, Wojciech Frykowski, Stephen Parent, Lino LaBianca, and Rosemary LaBianca are not here with us now in this courtroom. But from their graves, they cry out for justice.
You have just judged yourself.
The world had never before witnessed anything like the Manson family. And God help us all if there's anything like it ever again.
You say they're just a few? Well, there are many, many more. And they're running in the streets. They're all running in the same direction. And they're running right at you.
Helter Skelter, the true story, the whole story.
Amazon. Oops, wrong Amazon. Although we both contain an array of diversity, the rainforest with all of its animals and us with all of our products, come check us over today and find all the products you need quickly and efficiently. And buy it with one click. And now you can even use us to donate to your favorite charities using Amazon Smile. Amazon Smile is worth your while. Come check us out today.
Hello?
What's your favorite scary movie?
I have a bunch of favorite movies. I watch them all on Shudder.com for only $4.99 a month.
That's a scary low price.
But if I had to pick a favorite, it'd probably be Scream.
Oh.
Yeah, it's the only streaming service that lets me watch hundreds of horror movies on demand.
I'll be right back.
Hello? Hello? Hello, are you gonna subscribe? Hello?
Go to Shudder.com to subscribe, if you dare.
Hello, welcome back. So now we're going to be discussing 1976 Helter Skelter, the CBS miniseries that was one of the biggest television shows ever to be watched by the American population. It also made tons of money because they actually released it to Europe and across the world as theatrical version, which had a lot more blood, gore, and nudity in it. So, Vicky. Yeah, it did, actually.
There's an uncut version?
There is an uncut version of it somewhere out there. Though I don't know if it's the whole 3 hours. They might have put more blood, guts, and nudity in it.
Well, I know that they showed the bodies just for a split second.
Yeah.
You know?
But then they were bodies with red paint. It wasn't it wasn't the realistic blood that we come to know now in films, isn't it?
Right.
So what did you think of the 1976 miniseries?
I watched it. I mean, I think I've watched it several times. Actually, I think it was well done. I think it really stuck to the book quite a bit. I didn't think it had too much artistic license that strayed from the book.
Wow.
I mean, it definitely highlighted most of the parts that probably most people would have been interested in. As we just discussed the book, there's probably a lot of stuff in there that people wouldn't have been interested in. They kind of steered clear of the Hinman murders, except giving them, a obligatory nod or something. But yeah, I like the movie. I mean, like I said, I've watched it quite a few times. I have watched other adaptations as well that were much more gorier.
Yeah. I found it, I haven't seen it for a number of years. I remember when it aired, my mom wouldn't let me watch it.
My mom wouldn't let me watch it either, but I watched it anyway.
Well, I didn't actually see a lot of it, but because our living room was by the stairs, I did sit on the top
Mine
of the stairs
too.
and listen to it.
Mine too.
Because then you go to school. God, did you see Helter Skelter?
Did you see Helter Skelter? It's most of it.
Now, and then of course, it came out on video, on VHS, and that's when I actually did sit down and actually watch the whole thing. And it was fine. I was in my, college days, and it was fine. And I watched it this time, and it was kind of bizarre, but it felt like a Twilight Zone episode because it starts off with the guy playing Vincent. I'm going to tell you a story.
August 9th, 1969. You could almost hear the cocktail shakers down the canyon below. The Hollywood Hills plays with sounds or something like that. Yeah, I mean, I've never forgot that.
And it did sound like Rod Serling for Twilight Zone. You're watching the Twilight. It's like, and that was quite funny. And then he pop in every once in a while, and then he pops on in the end and gives you like his little, closing statement sort of thing at the end. And it's like, oh my God, it's like the guy who directed Twilight Zone directed this movie.
There's just no way no one didn't hear a lot that was going on. I've been in those hills. It's like there's no way. I mean, the roads are the size they're as wide as my driveway. That's how small these roads are going up the canyons, like Horseshoe Canyon, Benedict Canyon, and there's just no way. No one didn't hear shit.
Well, the funny thing about it is like this is where I found because by this time the book is a bestseller.
Right.
And everyone knows the case and everyone knows the ending of it. So they make this and I think CBS must have taken a lot of flack before they aired this because I mean we're looking at something that's still very much fresh in the public mind at this time.
Right.
And then there are some things that don't quite jive with the book. It's like what we just said about the opening. And then you have this couple and she's in her like long gown. They go, there's gunshots, and she goes, "Oh, what's that?"
Yeah.
And they goes, "Oh, go to bed." And then you have like the dogs barking, and but in the book they said no one heard anything. There was no gunshots heard, no dogs barking, no one. And then you got
this is a movie.
Yeah, it was just kind of bizarre that they actually added this in. Do you know what I mean?
I think they're doing it as filler to just bring up the whole work up to the whole.
Well, I think it's also give emphasis as like, oh, the Hollywood Hills are scared. These rich people are scared. Well, what's life without a few less rich?
A lot of shit happens in them there hills. Trust me.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, precisely. Well, I mean, wasn't where Dennis Wilson lived? Wasn't there someone who was murdered there? Someone murdered their husband there in his house.
Well, I know Wonderland murders happened there, Johnny Holmes and all that.
Oh God, yeah, they were. I mean, they actually made the Charles Manson murders look.
Oh, I know. We went. I made my friend move there. I go, drive me up to the Wonderland murder place. So that's what I'm saying. The roads are the size of a driveway. It's almost, you have to almost pull over to let somebody, And there's somebody living in that house too, because me, I'm like taking pictures. They're going, who the hell's this crazy bitch out here taking pictures?
We're probably used to it. I feel like if you buy
that's where the Wonderland murders happen.
If you buy the Amityville Horror House, chances are you better get used to people taking pictures of your house.
Yeah.
You're videoing everything. So you'll never be able to sit on the front lawn of your house ever if you buy some of these.
Well, Wonderland murders were pretty freaking bad too, though. I mean, that was pretty barbaric.
They were very barbaric, and then he got.
They never really found out. Well, did John Holmes have something to do with it? Probably.
He did. He was
such a coke whore. He really was.
He was an asshole. He probably was the worst human beings. The thing about the 1976, though, I like the way it's filmed, and I like the 1976 feeling of it. But there's one thing that makes the book come to life in the film. And because, while you're reading the book, of course, they talk about these sex orgies, and they're all having sex with gonorrhea, and they're all on penicillin. The gonorrhea going round and round it goes. Where it stops, no one knows. And, and then you watch the film, and they're recreating. They're not recreating the orgies, but they're recreating everything. And then they go and we see the Spawn Ranch, and this is where we first see Charlie.
Right.
Doing the Spawn Ranch sort of thing. And they're pulling people out from the dirt, and they're all like sleeping together. And you think, these people must have stank. It must have been the worst smell ever. We're talking about no showering, no bathing. They're all dirty. They're all matted hair, sort of thing. And you're just thinking, and people were going there just to have sex. It's like, what people were going there just to have sex with all these girls? Because they weren't the cleanest bunch of people.
No.
You know, I mean, we're talking about people who are like eating garbage, taking food from garbage cans.
Oh, yeah, they were.
They weren't going to the supermarket and buying food. They're getting food out of the garbage cans. And,
the dumpsters behind grocery stores.
So they're not going to the grocery store. So they're not buying soap. They're not buying shampoo. There's no running water at the Spawn Ranch that we know of because there's not one mention or in the book of them taking a shower or one mention of it in the movie.
That's true. I've always thought that every time I see this movie or I see anything about him, I go, God, these guys are scumbags.
Yeah.
It's just got to be so bad. There's just no way I could have been a hippie back then. It's like, no.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if they were, they all didn't have lice. You know what I mean?
Did.
They probably did.
That's probably why they all shaved their heads initially.
That's probably the reason why, actually, because the lice was too much. But I think, the movie does bring that forward. I think it's an interesting thing, and there's a documentary feeling, but it is all, again, because it's taken from the book, it is all done. There's a lot of facts and figures that don't really come out. As you said, the Bobby Beausoleil stuff doesn't really mention it. It's kind of got mentioned as like a sideways glance sort of thing.
Right.
Though they do show Bobby at the end in prison. It's like, what? Right. it's like if you didn't read the book, if let's say you're watching this film and you're not familiar with the case whatsoever, you're like, who the fuck's Bobby Beausoleil? Which he is getting out soon.
Who the fuck is that?
My friend Bobby's getting out soon, so make sure you buy all his albums.
Is he getting released soon though?
Yeah, he is apparently. Yeah. So, well, I mean, he did the Gary Hindman murder, didn't he? So he wasn't really involved in the Bianca sort of things. And I mean, though they painted Gary Hindman at the time as like this music teacher, I mean, he was a drug dealer, so.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, but Bugliosi makes him sound like he's a music teacher, and you're thinking, oh, piano, guy with the glasses, nice dude. No, he was a drug dealer.
Yeah, sort of thing. And I think that, I mean, let's be honest, they only solved that murder because Bobby Beausoleil was stupid.
Yeah.
Well,
he was driving the guy's car, dumbass.
Precisely, with the murder weapon in it. Like, that's why I was saying, like, in our previous segment, we were talking about Charles Manson, about being this criminal mastermind. It's like he wasn't a criminal mastermind. Because, I mean, at least these people just fucked up left, right, and center. I mean, they're like the worst criminals in history. The only reason why they got away with it, the reason why they got away with it, because the LAPD were worse. It's true, isn't it? It's like, God. Oh my God, let's go to this murder scene. Everyone, and they'd be like inviting their friends in. Everyone, come see dead bodies. It's Everyone come see. I mean, I guess it's a bit different because now with criminology and everything like that, and the way that things
DNA are done, and everything else,
and DNA and preserving everything, and if you go into a crime scene, you cover up all the way. You put a face mask on, you cover up your hair. You put on your little baby booties on, and you kind of go through. You don't touch anything, and unless you have gloves on. But in those days, I mean, it was a free for all. I mean, they're inviting people in. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't get the press in there at the same time. Come on and take some pictures.
Well, they did. They had news cruiser out at the front of the Tate Mansion.
Well, I have to sit there and say that what kind of shocked me the most is that when Roman Polanski decides he's going to go back and visit the house where his beloved wife and friends died, he takes a film crew with him. You're like, what? To show how much in mourning he is. I was like, that's kind of sick.
Yeah.
I mean, if it happened to me, I'd tell you, like, if I came home and let's say everyone in my household is murdered, and I come home and I'm away and I come home and I'm facing that, I want to be by myself. I might want to have a really good friend with me.
I don't think I'd want to stay in that house. I mean, just the vibration alone it's got to be just, being with that much fear in the atmosphere. I'm really superstitious like that. I just think that things get charged like that. Then again, I ghost hunt. So,
well, I mean, God forbid, let's sit there and say that everyone in your household's murdered and you happen to be away on a business trip and you come back. And are you going to, you're going to need to you might have a friend come with you to help support you, but you're not going to have a film crew to sit there and film you. You know what I mean? It's
Did he do that? I didn't know he did that.
Yeah, he did. He had a film crew come around and do it so that way he can show his grief. It's like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he did because he was at one point they thought he was a suspect.
Yeah.
But then the police thought everyone was a suspect. So let's face it. I think they probably even suspected the mailman at one point, probably because they were clueless. But yeah, I just found that about weird. But there's I think the TV miniseries, I think it moves at quite a good pace, and I quite like the idea that they don't really. Steve Railsback is great as Charles.
Yes, he is.
Though I think it kind of ruined his career for a while because no one.
Yeah, because everybody he kind of got stigmatized with the Chaz Man image.
Yeah.
Every time you see him, it's like, oh wow, he played Charlie Manson.
Yeah. It's a bit like.
Every time I see Steve Railsback in anything, no, he played Manson.
Well, it's a bit like Powers Booth. Powers Booth had like a really good career, and then he played Jim Jones, and every time we see him in all Jim Jones.
Until Tombstone came out, that kind of put him back on the charts.
Yeah, and Frailty and things like that. But I mean, there was a while there. I mean, it's like, you know, if you're really good at playing somebody who's horrible, chances are you're not work again.
So talk about career overkill.
Well, it's good to see Marilyn Burns. I mean, you know, she was. I mean, let's face it, she was like the #1 scream queen, wasn't she, from Texas Chainsaw Massacre? She's that one that keeps screaming. And I actually got to see her do something where she's not screaming, so that was quite good.
Right.
Because, I mean, to be honest, by the end of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you're thinking, if I can just kill her already, she threw my head.
It's like all the running and the screaming.
It's good. But then I do think that some of the problems with, I think, the film itself is that when it does, you kind of got the, and because it's set in the stuff, the way all the polyester that everyone's wearing, you have all the people like in their polyester and stuff like this, and there's
sideburns, cigarettes. Everybody must have died of lung cancer back then.
Well, the cops all look very sleazy, don't they? They all look like they look like really sleazy, like 70s porn stars. That's what they look like.
With the mustaches, all that other shit.
And then you got Manson and his girls, and they're like played like they make them look like villains. Like, you know what I mean? It's like they made them look very villainy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And Charles Manson, and that's what I find. You know, Vincent's. This is what I find quite funny, and it gets actually orchestrated in the film, is that throughout the book, Vincent's telling us that Charles Manson is just the man. He's a horrible man. He can manipulate people, da-da-da-da-da. He's a horrible man, but he
can make clocks stop, your watch stop in the courtroom.
And then it shows Charles Manson in the film, like, staring, giving, like, the Life magazine cover stare.
Yeah.
And it's, oh, that's funny. My watch always works.
I love the footage, though. I love the footage, though, where he gives the Manson stare, like where he's bald and he shaves his head. He's like that. And he just tries to fuck with people's heads. He always, like, stared at you fucked up all 5 feet of him.
Well, I mean, that's what I think. Now, this is where I think that the film kind of messed up slightly when it came to Charles Manson, because whenever you see interviews of Charles Manson, he's a jittery, wiry little man.
I know, he's moving around.
He's like jibby-jabbing and moving his arms, moving his hands, and like popping back and forth like a boxer.
Yeah.
And you're thinking. And that's what's missing. And I'm wondering if I'm pretty sure he probably must have been doing that in the hearing. Like when he's like, you know, when he's giving a speech, you know, he gives, and I think Steve Railsback is probably thinking, well, this is my chance to win my Emmy. So I'm going to do this really passionate speech in the TV movie. But you know for a fact that if it was the real Charles Manson, probably was bopping around, like jibby-jabbing while he's doing his talk on the stand.
Well, he represented himself for a while.
Well, yeah. But there was some weird things in there, because the thing is, you never really, you kind of see the defense attorneys in the miniseries, and they're kind of there, but they're just there. You don't really see any interaction going on with any of them, which is kind of bizarre. I mean, this is all about Vincent. The movie is all about Vincent. About Vincent. Because even like you get like some scenes, like, even when Susan Atkins is at the grand jury and she's giving her thingy, it's all about Vincent. They got Charles, and it's all about Vincent talking to Charlie. You know, it's all about Vincent. So it's like it's Helter Skelter, a Vincent story. So that's what I found kind of bizarre about the TV movie. It was all about Vincent. And you do get mentioned. I mean, you get the facts thrown at you. I mean, it does throw the facts at you, but it is. You know, even Vincent gets his close up at the end. Wraps it all up. So I have to sit there and say it is quite funny that you remember when they showed them all in prison at the end?
Yeah.
The looks that they give like these evil stares.
They're like Susan Atkins behind bars, like giving the shifty eye thing. She's gonna. You think her tongue's gonna come out of her mouth, and her skull's gonna split, and laser beams are gonna come out of her skull.
But it's kind of like, it's a bit like, when remember in the 70s and 80s when you had TV shows and they would like have their name across, and then they would like turn their head around, they have like this great big Hollywood smile.
Yeah,
it's like this in reverse. It's like they have like a smile, and then they go like Susan Atkins, lifetime in prison. She like look at the camera and she's like evil. Patricia Krenwinkel, she's like smiling. Patricia Krenwinkel's in prison. She looks at the lights like, I'm going to kill you. What?
They were just kids, really. They were younger than my daughter and son.
Yeah, well, they were in their 20s though. They weren't. They weren't that.
Well, like when you got like not Bruner, but there was like Morehouse and a couple of the other players.
Well,
so,
yeah,
I mean, she was the preacher's daughter, and he got her to come along. But I mean, a lot of them were just runaway kids and stuff like that in real life. So
well, they were
all girls.
They were all middle class.
The only reason he let Tex join the crowd is because he couldn't protect them or keep all these women corralled. So he had to get Tex Watson in there because he had all these fucking crazy broads all over the place.
Well, I think Charlie, what he needed some good-looking guys around him to bring the girls in. I mean, you gotta remember, Charles Manson was 5'1". I mean, he's that shorty guy.
He wasn't screaming sexuality every time I looked at him, but
no. I mean, though there are some times that you will catch Charles Manson in his heyday, and he's not bad looking at times.
No, he wasn't.
I mean, there's that footage that we actually used in our newsletter, and he's not bad looking in that. He
either takes a good picture or a bad picture, just like the rest of us.
I do think that sometimes he gives pictures because this is what people want of him now. They want that. They and I think when he does give interviews now, he's given.
Well, he's dead now, sadly.
Well, yeah, but when he saw interviews, whether it was Rivera or Barbara Walters, whoever, I think he gave people what they wanted.
Geraldo. We'll talk about another narcissist. Geraldo.
Did he ever find
nothing gave my heart more pleasure than him opening the safe, the safe of the Andrea Doria. It had nothing in it. They had already opened that fucking thing way before that show even happened.
I know, Geraldo.
Remember he got that chair thrown at him and broke his nose? I could watch that footage like over and over and over. That was great.
Wasn't it Geraldo that says, I stand by O.J. Simpson, he's innocent? You're like, go away, Geraldo. Just go away. If he gets locked up, don't worry, he'll be on your show.
I know, no shit.
Does he even have a career now?
Yeah, he's working for Fox. He's a Fox commentator.
He's best friends with Tony Orlando.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was on some kind of show, and he's talking about his best friend Tony Orlando, and you're like,
he's sort of like he's in between. He's not quite liberal, but he's not quite conservative. But he's on Fox.
Well, he was kind of like the bastard love child of Oprah Winfrey and Phil Donahue. He's like in the middle.
Yeah, basically.
Sort of thing, But I mean, I think the miniseries is interesting. I think it's very well acted and very well put together. And it's
put together well before the time because it really was that time frame when the series was made. So that's why it kind of it is done well through the decades actually. So
I mean, the sad thing about it is that no one from this. I mean, all the actors in the show are really good. There's no bad TV acting. There's there's none of that. Charlie's Angels, I'm going to do the Jackie Onassis story. There's none of that.
Right.
which, it's got a documentary feel. It's gritty. It's hard hitting. Everyone is brilliant in it. I can't knock anyone's performance in it whatsoever.
No, they all did very well in it.
But it's weird that none of them moved on from here. You don't see any of these people ever again in anything.
Not
Steve
really.
Railsback pops up every once in a while.
You're right.
And then Marilyn Burns, let's face it. Because of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, she's always going to be a horror indie.
She was just a scream queen. Yeah.
But the horror audiences, as we know, are very, very dedicated, and they love their women, and so she would always pop up here and there in low budget horror films. But no one else popped up. The girl who plays Susan Atkins, she was brilliant.
Yeah, I've not seen any of those actors before or since, actually. But it was the 70s, though, and it was a made-for-TV show, so who knows?
Yeah. It was very well done, and I have to say it was very... It was like watching a theatrical film, They did a very good
Pretty
job.
much.
Though
I think it kind of stuck. But it did make Linda Kasabian, and I would still say this, look like this poor, daunting, pregnant little girl. And I still think that's a bunch of bullshit. I don't think that there was much innocent about her. She probably didn't partake too much in any of the actual bone cutting or anything else, but I doubt she was totally squeaky clean. I think she made a deal with the prosecution.
Oh yeah, and she had to play that card in order to get her immunity settled. Let's face it, she would have gone down for life with all the rest of them, and she didn't go down.
Yeah,
and there's, I think that she's a smart girl. I think she knew how to play the cards right. And I'm sure that if she wasn't pregnant, it might, it's a bit like that Begum chick that we got over here trying to come back to the UK. If she wasn't pregnant, we probably wouldn't even be hearing about her because she was
feel too bad for her either. That pregnant girl wants to come back from being with ISIS or Al Qaeda or whatever. She's stupid and she shouldn't have gone in the first place and advocating the murder of other people. So no, I don't feel sorry for her either.
Yeah, but I'm saying that the press tried to point her off as this victim sort of thing because she was pregnant, and then now apparently she's in hiding because someone's trying to kill her. Don't know why, because she's not in our country. If anyone's going to kill her, it's going to be English. There's no English.
Well, yeah, I would want to be in her boots right now.
But I'm sure it's probably the media trying to perpetrate her as a victim again. But I think, but that kind of leads me to because I think that. She was blonde hair, blue-eyed, attractive, pregnant at the time, and she has her baby, and she plays the victim card very, very well. And she's one of these people who's like, I was brainwashed. It's like, fuck off.
Right.
You were there because you wanted to. You went from one commune to another, and the only reason why you were with Charlie is because commune with your husband wasn't working out, so you jumped on this commune. That's the reason why. So,
there was a lot of that going on back then too, especially in California.
Oh yeah, the only reason why Charlie Manson left San Francisco is because all the communes, they're all dying of drug overdoses in the street.
Right.
And he's like, oh, I don't want to get caught up in this, and that's why they moved to LA to Swan Ranch. It's because of all that's. And if you look at documentaries about San Francisco at this time, I know that there's this romanticized version of the hippie generation, but they were all fucked up on drugs. They were shitting in the street. They were pissing in the street. They were dying in the street. They were throwing up in the street. And that's what San Francisco was in that time period. And it didn't start out that way, but that's the way it was headed. By 1967, 68, this is where it was headed. This is what was happening.
Right.
Charlie goes, let's get in my bus and let's go down to California because we got a little bit more room if we're gonna sit there and throw up and pass out and everything.
Yeah, go somewhere else. Well, Venice Beach, man. I can't imagine. I love Venice Beach. I can't imagine what it was like 40, 50 years ago because it's still got. Well, when you go to Venice Beach or even parts of Malibu, the homeless, it's just ridiculous. I've never seen such homelessness in my entire life as I have there. Well, I can't imagine what it was like back then.
Well, the problem with California is that it perpetrates this kind of dream that you can become famous and you can do this. And people move there, and sometimes and think that they're going to have the California dream, and it's like, and you're not going to afford it. first of all, it's like, your job at McDonald's is not going to even afford a piss and walk in flat, sort of thing. So
California's screwed bad right now. So
well, they've always have been. Now, let's be honest. I mean,
it's 10 times worse now.
I mean, what was California known for? I mean, teenage runaways going there and becoming prostitutes. That's pretty much what happened.
Yeah.
We all saw, Jan Brady get on that bus and run away from home and turn into a teenage prostitute in Dawn, Portrait of a Teen.
With that wig. The black wig.
The movie was so successful they made a sequel about her pimp. So, but yeah, I think the film is really good. Though they're, just between you and I and the listener, why do you think Susan Atkins spilled her guts in prison? Do you think that she was just an asshole, stupid?
I just think she was showing off. I think she was like, they were in prison, and there's two girls talking, and they're both lesbians too, when you think about it. Well, yeah. And it could have been a little pillow talk going on with that Ronnie woman, and she was just trying to talk about how badass she was. How people are, and she was still basically a kid, 19, 20 years old. Well, look at me. That case on TV? That was me. I
know.
Stupid bitch. But, that's probably what it was.
If she never opened her mouth, they'd probably never been caught.
They probably would have never figured out it was them.
And you know what else I find weird?
Ronnie Howard. That was her name.
Ronnie Howard. No, Ronnie Howard is...
No, wait. Ronnie, what's her name? Ronnie.
Here's some Happy Days.
Ronnie. I've done too much cold medicine. What is her name? It's
Richie Cunningham. Richie Cunningham.
No, I think her last name was Howard. Her name's Ronnie, though.
It's Ronnie something or other.
Yeah, but she was with her. That's going to drive me nuts now. I got to find my book.
But, you know what another thing I found weird about this whole case as well is that how come Charlie didn't turn against Susan Atkins?
Well, I think he was pretty pissed. I don't think he was happy about it.
Yeah, but at the same time, if he's this multi-killer and, this person who's like out for revenge and all this other stuff, why didn't he have her killed?
I don't know. That's a good question. But then again, prison didn't seem to bother him because it was like going home for him.
Well, what he said, he goes, Lisa, when they said that he's got lifetime imprisonment and they asked him how he felt about it, he goes, oh, Lisa won't be eating out of garbage cans again.
Yeah.
And he felt comfortable in prison.
I don't know. I'm trying to remember what I don't think he had a cellmate. I think the Chaz man had his own room. And I think he had a lot of amenities because people sent him stuff. He had, talk about it, might not have been a cult then, but he had a cult following up until the day he died, as he still does.
Well, you kind of wonder who's making money on his imaging. I mean, he's on T-shirts, he's on posters, he's on album covers. Guns N' Roses recorded one of his songs.
Right.
To the horror of everyone in the late 80s, early 90s. His image is going to carry on living probably long after you and I are dead. He's
a glorified criminal.
Well, he's an anti-hero. He's up there with Bonnie and Clyde. I mean, Bonnie and Clyde weren't innocent. I mean,
no, not at all.
Jesse James, he's up there with all that. He's one of these anti-heroes. And, he might have not have got a recording contract, though his recordings are available on Spotify and iTunes. And if you download his music and you use LL Podcast, you'll get a discount. No, I'm only kidding.
There you don't even go there. Oh my God! If John was here, he'd be splitting a gut right
now. But no, I mean, it's like, his music's alive. I mean, the thing is, everyone knows who he is. So in a weird...
Well, his lyrics really aren't that bad. I can't say too much about him. He's sort of like John Dillon to me. John Dillon had great music, great lyrics, but God could not fucking sing a tune.
Yeah. I think with Charlie Manson, I think he can carry a tune better than Bob Dylan, but just
anybody can carry it better
but just
than Bob
a little
Dylan.
bit. I mean, there's a couple songs as on our the opening credits. That is Charles Manson singing one of his creations called "Cease to Exist," which is kind of fitting. But his voice is okay. But at that time, pretty much everyone kind of sounded like that anyway.
Yeah.
You didn't get a lot of.
Well, it was the '60s, and even if you thought it was okay, it's probably because you were fucked up on some substance or another. Yeah.
So I mean, so he wasn't horrible. He was. I mean, his songs you can. I mean, there's a couple of songs that he sounds okay on. There's a couple of songs he's like, what in the hell, garbage man.
Right.
What? where he can't sing at all. So then again, maybe the two songs that he does sound decent with, maybe they worked it in the recording.
Well, the one song that he sounds good at is because Terry Melcher actually put him in a recording studio and let him. And that's probably one of them, because I can't, without a little tweaking, nobody sounds that great unless you tweak it a little bit. I don't give a shit who you are.
The two songs that he used to, now I think Cease to Exist, he was tweaked on, because there's two songs where his voice sounds okay, and the other songs are a bit scratchy. But
a little scratchy.
Would he set the world? Let's sit there and say that he didn't murder anyone, or he wasn't. The Manson family were just a commune, and let's sit there and say he came out with albums. Would he have gotten to a point where he would have came out with a second or third album and became a recording artist that people would have known?
You never know. You don't know.
I would probably say not. I don't. I think that the kind of music that he was doing, and the kind of music that he was playing, and the kind of music that he was writing, there were other people like Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and Gordon Lightfoot, and all these other 60 artists were doing the same exact thing, but only better.
Right.
So I don't think he would have found his fame. It's funny though, but the one thing he wanted to do is become famous, and he did get his fame. He got famous.
Not the way he wanted. I often wonder, I don't think you have many rights when you're in prison, but I mean, did they have the rights to do a movie without his permission?
Well, because it's a public domain open case, yeah, they do. Now, if they're going to do like the Charles Manson story and like do like him from birth to death, then I think they would need his story. But because in this story,
well, he actually had a wife when he died. He was married when he died.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's all sorts of crazy. I mean, that's the perfect relationship, isn't it?
Right.
Marry someone who's incarcerated who's never going to come out. And you only see them when you get visits.
Conjugal visits or whatever.
Once every month or every 2 months. Yeah, you're going to have it. I mean, that's why Tex Watson's marriage probably lasted so long. They never fucking see each other.
Yeah.
Like, isn't he a great father? What? Because he sees his kids once every
But they get royalties off all these documentaries and all this other stuff going on. People want to know about them. It doesn't matter whether 69 was, 40, 50 years ago. People are still fascinated, and they want to see as much as they can. That's why you've got so many documentaries.
Well, true crime is always interesting. I mean, look at Netflix's biggest show at the moment is, how to make a murderer.
Yeah, that was something else. The first
one about the one who murdered the nun, the keeper. I mean, that was huge. The Ted Bundy tapes. Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, Jeffrey Dahmer.
I can't wait for that movie to come out. Ted Bundy, Zac Efron's playing him. It looks fantastic. I can't wait for that.
But serial killers always do it for us. I mean, it's big money to make. I mean, one of the best TV movies is a film called To Catch a Killer with Brian Dennehy's playing John Wayne Gacy.
Right.
In a 3-hour film, and you just can't stop watching. And
because Gacy was. He was the clown, and then he puts people under his crawl space, and his neighbor's going, "What the hell are you doing over there? The friggin' neighborhood smells."
And people. I mean, serial killers, big business. I mean, John Wayne Gacy before he died, people were buying his artwork. Charles Manson was making sock yarn dolls, and I kind of wish I wrote to him so I got one, because it'd been great to have a thingy, but he could be like snakes up from the yarn from his socks, and and people buying this shit, and it's big business. And I think the reason why Charles Manson is the folklore is never going to die, because it's interesting to see. I think once you like you got your single serial killers, and you do wonder like, oh, how can they kill? How they can kill? But then when you start adding in the couples or groups of people who kill together, it becomes even more fascinating. When you think of like Fred and Rosemary West in this country, or the Hillside Stranglers, are these two people who didn't know each other, and they become friends, and they decide to kill each other. They go out and kill these women, together. That was kind of weird. It's like, I said before, you kind of sit around going, when do you have that conversation? It's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm thinking about going to kill somebody. You want to go? Yeah, sure. Oh, hey, great. Let's go kill people together.
I got nothing else on my schedule. I'm not booked enough.
And out of everyone, and then you also look at the destiny sort of card and how people come together. What made all these people come together at this particular point in time? Charles Manson could have sent, if he was the, let's put him as the mastermind to this great big thing.
Right.
Who would have said that? I mean, like if I got a group of my friends together, and let's sit there and say I could brainwash them, I'm sure that I'd probably be really hard pressed to find 4 people who would go and orchestrate something to that extreme.
I don't know. Next time you're in Watertown, let's see what we can cook up. We'll go to Killing Spree in upstate New York.
We'll probably be given letters of recommendations and probably get an award for help cleaning up the town.
Right. We'll just go up to Outer State Street. There's a lot of work needs to be done up there.
But I think that's the reason why the Charles Manson family stays alive, and I think it's going to stay alive. 50, 100, 150 years from now, they're going to.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
it's got staying power for sure.
We're still discussing Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
That was, and what about W.W. Holmes' case?
Yeah.
He's that one who set up that hotel, and American Horror Story kind of not head towards them. Where people would check in, but they wouldn't check back out. You know what I mean? It's just like, and these things are still very interesting. And then if you look at the
Zodiac Killer, they never even caught him.
No. And then you got the Son of Sam, which is, to be honest, he was quite mild, really.
Son of Sam was pretty tame compared to some others.
And
you had the Town of the Dreaded Sundown here in Texarkana, that movie. They never found that guy either. They kind of figured they thought, but they never found out who the guy was that killed everybody in Texarkana.
And you look at, cable television or satellite television, there's like 5 or 6 channels basically dedicated to
murder,
crime and murder investigations. There's shows called Killer Calls, Women Who Kill, Killer Kids, Men Who Kill, Neighbors Who Kill, Love Thy Neighbor, Women Scorned.
Podcasters Who Kill.
And the thing is, you kind of watch this, you go through this and you're thinking, for fuck's
Holy
sake.
shit.
And we're not even talking like, the American Horror Story series count here. We're not talking about 13 episodes a season. We're talking about 24 episodes a season, and they've been going for years.
Yeah.
And some of these series, none of them are covering the same ones.
I know Amazon's got that one, the 10 worst killers or whatever, serial killers, of which Manson is one of them. And then they got, Then it goes customers also watched, and so I go up to customers also watched.
I
started watch the whole thing about the Zodiac Killer and how the cartoonist figured out kind of sort of who he was. It's like, God, there's just a market for it because I'll watch it. I find it fascinating. It's part of human behavior that I've always found psychologically fascinating. It's like what motivates these people? What motivates people to follow these people?
Precisely. Well, what makes people contact them in prison and think they can save them and want and love them
or want to be married to them? It's like, please marry me.
It's like considering their friends. When Charles Manson died, to give our listeners some after facts. Okay, the Charles Manson family are still a lot of them are still out there. Most of them have been set out free. There's been people that haven't been involved in the main killings, but they have been in other murders and stuff like this, and then most of them are out now. So, the Manson family have a charity to help save the world, and they're one of the leading environmentalists. They have a lot of ideas about what we need to do to save our world is coming from this organization. Squeaky Fromm tried to kill Ronald Reagan.
That was Ford. That was Ford.
Tried to shoot Gerald Ford.
Pinkman tried to kill Reagan.
Yeah. And so Squeaky Fromm tried to kill Ford in the name of Charlie. Wasn't successful. Didn't actually fire the gun. She went away. She's out now.
Living close to Watertown, New York.
Yeah. She'll always be close to home now. But But the thing is that the Manson family, they're of age now. Most of them are in their 70s now.
But they still have followers, though. They themselves still have cult following.
Well, of course, everyone's still interested. There is a book out by Emma Klein called The Girls, And it's basically a fictionalized account about a Manson family type family who go and kill people, and about this girl that wasn't able to go on the murders with them, and how, you know, and where she is now, and she's looking and she's reflecting back on where she was at that time. And there's books about the Manson family that are still $1 million selling. There's films are still coming out. The Strangers, as you spoke about earlier, is based on the Charles Manson murders.
I didn't know that till I started getting into reading, and that they based that loosely on the Manson murders.
Oh yeah, I mean, anything. I think anytime you have a group of killers in a horror film or a regular film going in and killing people, you know, and I think cults are always interesting anyway. I mean, the Waco, Texas thing is always going. I mean, I don't think Charles Manson was a cult, but he's always going to be known as a cult by media standards.
Right.
And, you know, there's always that fascination, what brings all these people together. And I think that Charles Manson's name is going to live long after we're dead.
Yeah, it's still got staying power. I remember when he died. Remember all the headlines when he passed away?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it just...
Well, he has children out there. He has a lot of children out there. You know, I know one son apparently committed suicide because he couldn't stand the thought. So it's his grandson that tried to claim his body. And he's fighting against someone who was a pen pal, Charlie, because Charlie apparently told his pen pal that he could have his body. So there's
that's right. But he also had a wife, and you got to throw her into the mix too.
Yeah, and you know, it's just very, very interesting. And I think, and we're all, and you know, Charlie's dead now, so there's going to be no more interviews. But God forbid his family are, you know, those girls are still in prison. They're still whipping out interviews.
Yeah.
You know, give them 50 quid and they're yours. You know, proclaiming their brainwash.
Cantina.
They are so sorry and how God saved their life and blah, blah, blah. So.
Yeah, I'll never understand. I guess there's nothing else to do but find God in prison, so.
Well, even when you take Sharon Tate's family, I mean, they've been riding the crest of this as well.
Oh, yeah, make sure they don't get out on parole. The sister, boy, she's been on them like white on rice for all these years.
And then, you know, and I felt sorry for the mom and dad that they lost their daughter, and I feel sorry for the sisters that she lost her sister. Considering her sister's supposed to come over that night.
Right.
And Sharon said, I don't feel well. I don't really, you know, don't come over tonight. So that would have been interesting. But you know, I always think of like the families, and because Doris, the mom, made this her life mission to make sure that these people stay in.
Right.
And everything like this. It must have ruined her relationship with her siblings, you know, Sharon's siblings, because now their whole life is about this.
Right.
You know, and I know that their sister is doing it, and you know they have every right to, you know, to delay this. I think if you got life imprisonment is life imprisonment. I don't think they should have be let out. I don't care how much remorse you have, because the people that you killed, and let's face it, they, you know, there wasn't.
You destroyed a whole group of people's lives, basically.
Well, you know, it has a ripple effect. You know, if I go out and, you know, and kill, you know, Isaac, let's say tomorrow, you know, Isaac's families and friends are going to be affected by that, and then, you know, and then any nieces and nephews and grandchildren, and you know, just
it's like a pebble in a pond. It does ripple out.
You know, so life imprisonment.
I don't blame. If that was my child that got murdered in such a horrific way, I don't know if I could let it go. You know, being a mother. So, I mean, I'd probably be all over it too. Don't let these people out. You don't want these people out. They're there to be punished. Because the way they killed these people, it really was barbaric. I mean, it even goes beyond, transcends barbaric.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a pregnant woman, I mean, it's bad enough she was a woman, but to kill a woman begging for the life of her child, it's like, come on, no. Fuck them. Stay in prison where you belong.
And for no apparent reason, but to help get Bobby Beausoleil off. That's the reason.
Yeah, well, all that, and he's going to get out of prison anyway. And he has aged rather well. I've seen his pictures.
Oh, you know, he was a nice-looking guy, and he's still working, and he's making money off his music, and you know, he's still working with Kenneth Anger. He scored Lucifer Rising.
People are going to listen to him just because he's Bobby Beausoleil, though.
Well, he's talented.
He's going to get that extra push just because.
Yeah.
That'll get him heard.
And, you know, I said before, I don't think Charles Charles Manson was a criminal mastermind and all this other thing. I think that things spun out of control and things happen the way they happen.
Right.
Does he deserve an easy place in society?
No.
Should he have had a fair hearing? Yes, he should have had a fair hearing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was a fucked up trial. I mean, that really and that trial, like you said, happened at this moment in time in 2018, 2019, 2017 even. There's no way that would have been thrown out of court just because of the circus that it turned into, and the evidence, everything had been foobarred and tampered with and touched by the media.
Yeah. And, even the blood, even the guy who's taking the bloods in the murder scenes messed up. Everyone messed up. It's just a big old ball thing. And, let's face it, if Susan Atkins didn't run her mouth off, chances are they'd be out.
They would have never got caught.
They would never got caught. And I do understand why Vincent went through the Helter Skelter and the race war thingy, because that's the only thing he had to pin.
Well, the White Album, the White Album was important to these people, though. They did think that the Beatles were giving them messages.
Yes and no.
I know, but they were basically smoking 67 crack,
Oh, I know, but what I'm sitting there saying, I think that I think it was a bunch of drugged up people that were listening to the album and they had a conversation. Right. And I don't think that these were the reasons. I don't think they went out and murdered people because the Beatles' White Album. I've
listened to the White Album a million times. And I still don't see when I listen to Helter Skelter, when John Lennon's singing it, I still don't catch where they're talking.
Helter Skelter is about a slide in Blackpool.
Yes.
And, and I do think that some of these things are added in, and I do think that once Charles Manson, because the thing is, none of this stuff happened until Charles Manson got caught. The media knew that he got caught, and then the people coming forward were saving their own asses, and they're saving their asses, and they put it on this great big mastermind of Charles Manson that the Beatles were speaking to them. These songs meant this to them, and I think how people exaggerate. I think everyone just exaggerated everything.
Exactly.
But it worked. It worked because if they didn't have that exaggeration, Charles Manson, they had nothing to put him in jail for. By changing the commune to cult, that changes it. Like Jimmy's, Jesse Smollett, by calling it a hoax instead of a lie, it changes it.
Right. I wish they would have called it a lie. A lie is a lie. That really pissed me off. Not only did it reflect on the LGBT community, but it just started a racial bunch of bullshit again. I'm so sick of it all. Shut up.
But see how it changes from a lie, which is what he committed, and then changing it to hoax. This now makes it different. It makes it lighter. In this case, Charles Manson, the Manson family commune, now changes to the Manson family cult.
Right.
It just changes everything, and it makes everything.
Well, now it is. It might have been a family and a commune back then, but now it is cultish. Because every day they get followers. They got kids, for crying out loud.
Yeah,
that still rape these people.
Yeah, but I don't think it was a cult. I think okay. As far as fanatics nowadays looking at it after he's in jail, I don't think it's a cult. I don't think they're following because they think he's the next Jesus Christ. No, that's not why they're following him. And a cult, they're following him because they think he's a religious leader. I think the reason why his family were with him, because they were a commune, they had nowhere else to go. They were fed and they were fucked up all the time on drugs. That was it. They weren't there because they thought he was the second coming of Christ. And they didn't.
Sex, drugs, rock and roll.
That's all it was. And I don't think that they were with him because they thought God was speaking through him. And I don't think they were with him because they thought he was the next Jesus Christ. I think that's.
I think they kind of got. I think
it started out as a joke, and then they turned it and they turned that joke into something else. But I don't think any of his followers thought that he was Jesus Christ. I do think his followers thought think he's innocent, that he shouldn't be in prison because he didn't murder anyone. And I think that's the reason why they stick that he was a proxy. That they set him up to be the head of this great big organization that goes out and murder people to start a race war. And I think that's why that some of his scholars, because they know that's false, that he shouldn't be in prison for that. He did know about it. He could have stopped it, all that sort of stuff. And I believe in my theory is, and I think that they believe that he was strung up by the establishment to be this huge mastermind. And I think the family members that stick by him don't know that he's not that big mastermind. I think the ones in prison are using that mastermind story because they want to get off and not take responsibility for what they did. Plain and simple.
I agree with that.
So, but that's, but then I could be totally wrong. Though I've seldom am.
It's an opinion. It's just our opinion. It's not, the
It's my
gospel.
opinion. I think after doing something and the theory that I came out with earlier, that feels realistic to me.
It is.
That just feels more realistic than
I never really thought of it that way, but it is kind of,
And I have to say the Helter Skelter, Beatles Talking Through Me Through the White Album, Cult Leader, and starting a race riot is a lot more exciting. It makes it a lot more interesting story.
It sells a lot more of Vincent Bugliosi's books.
Well, it does that, and a lot more T-shirts, and a lot more pins, which Charlie's.
I don't know. I've got a lot of scary T-shirts and stuff that I normally wouldn't wear out public, but I don't think a Manson family T-shirt would be one of them.
I sit there and say, it's somebody's making money off all that sort of stuff. How many horror films came out with like the Manson family and
the Manson Massacre?
Precisely. There's even one on the Manson Vacation on Netflix.
Huh?
Yeah, you got to see it. It's quite funny. It's a comedy. It's about this guy, and he thinks he's Charles Manson's son. So he's because his mom won't tell him who his dad was, and he was born in the 60s. So he goes around and looking at all these Charles Manson things, and trying to go to prison so he can see his dad and speak to his dad. And Charles Manson doesn't know who the fuck he is. It's quite funny.
What's it called?
The Manson Vacation.
Oh my God, I'll check it out.
And he's got the film crew following him around, so it's kind of like that. It's quite funny. So, but anyway, so Vicky, what are your final thoughts about Helter Skelter?
Well, the book and the movie pretty much jive together. I liked the movie. It was worth, the 2 nights of your life to watch it. It was like a 4-hour, miniseries kind of thing. Yeah. It was a 2-parter. But I would suggest watching it if you have any interest in the true crime or any of this, particular story. There's a lot of information other than this if you wanted to research it further, because it is macabre and it is rather interesting. Some of us are just warped individuals that like this kind of shit. But it was a good movie. I liked it a lot.
Mm-hmm. And for me, I highly recommend it. I think it's one of the most interesting cases in the chronicles of U.S. Murders. I think it's going to live on. And there is something addictive about the Charles Manson case. It's like you read the book, you watch the miniseries, and then you spend like 8 or 9 years on YouTube looking at everything, and you can't stop. You can't tear your eyes away.
You just can't figure it. There's so many holes in it. There's so much more to it.
Yeah, there is something very intriguing about murder on this scale that makes that you're just trying to make sense out of it. And I think that Helter Skelter is a good place to start, and I think it's interesting, and it does open up a lot of conversations as we've had here. It opens, you can have.
We can sit here for 24 hours and still conversate about the same thing. Precisely. Because there's so much to it. There just is. There's so much information on it.
Well, it horrifies you. It baffles you. It makes you look at it with wonder. It makes it look, it sets up so many different emotions within you. So what we're going to do now, we're going to say goodbye to our staff. Just to remember that you can now find the LL podcast on Google Play, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, iTunes, Podbean, SoundCloud, and Stretcher. We're available on every single format now. Thank you to all the people that have asked us to join those. This is our month of Back to Reality, where we are looking at true crime stories. And our next week's episode is going to be The Girl Next Door and An American Crime. These are stories dealing with the Sylvia Lincoln case. The Girl Next Door is the fictionalized version of the story, and American Crime is the true story version of the crime, which is about a girl who goes to live with her aunt, and her aunt hires all the neighborhood kids to brutally mutilate her, murder her, and torture her. That's what we're covering next month. So I'd like to say goodbye for now. If you want to follow the LL podcast, make sure you go to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, and Tumblr and other social medias where you'll find our brand. Make sure you check out our new website at www.llpodcast.com, where we now have a spanking new website that makes it.
And it looks really good too.
So it's good night from me. So good night from Vicky. Say good night, Vicky.
Good night, people.
And we'll talk to you next week to cover The Girl Next Door and An American Crime.
Good evening. In California today, President Ford looked down the barrel of a loaded automatic held by a red-haired woman in a long red dress. But the gun didn't go off, and he's all right. The woman was wrestled to the ground by a Secret Service man, and the president was hustled away. She is being charged with attempted murder of the president. She is 26-year-old Lynette Alice Fromm, nicknamed Squeaky. She's a member of the so-called Manson family, followers of the convicted murderer, Charles Manson. Our White House correspondent, Tom Brokaw, was there when it happened this morning, and here is his report from Sacramento, California.
I am nothing. You are wind and water and sky. Jody, tell me, Jody, how I can earn your love. I would swim oceans, I would move mountains, I would do anything for you. What do you want me to do? I am unworthy of your love. Jody, Jody, let me prove worthy of your love. Tell me how I can earn your love, set me free. How can I turn your love to me?
I am nothing. You are wind and devil and God. Charlie, take my blood and my body for your love. Let me feel fire, let me drink poison, tell me to tear my heart in two, if that's what you want me to do. I am unworthy of your love, Charlie darling, I have done nothing for your love. Let me be worthy of your love, set me free.
I would come take you from your life.
I would come take you from yourself.
You would be queen to me, not wife.
I would crawl belly deep through hell.
Baby, I'd die for you.
Baby, I'd die for you.
Even though I will always know I am unworthy of your love.
Charlie darling,
Let me be worthy of your love. I'll find a way to earn your love. Wait and see. Then you will turn your love to me.
your love to me.
At trial, the girls, Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Leslie Van Houten, seemed not only willing to kill, but to die for Charles Manson.